Hey folks, we are back with another special episode of Four Men and an Anime.
Peter,
Wait.
I know. Look, I know last week's review went really badly, but you didn't have to get a replacement in already.
I didn't replace anybody. We have an extra person.
So he's not replacing me?
I'm not just lurking?
No, you guys are expected to talk some.
Oh,
We are,
okay.
as always, this is Peter Bowman, and I'm joined by my good friends and co-hosts, Eric Carlson and Gav Leaf. And this week, we are joined by our special guest, Nik Freeman.
Hey,
Hey,
nice
Nick.
to be here. It's been a while since I've gotten to hang out with you guys, so I'm really happy that we get to talk about dorky stuff again.
We get to talk about some very dorky stuff.
We are
now,
total nerds.
Nick, just before we start, I just want to make this perfectly clear, okay? I know you normally stick to the comics and the still pictures, but just to advise you, these pictures move, okay? Don't get freaked out by that.
Oh, is that what was happening?
And
See,
you don't get text bubbles, okay? The characters talk.
See, what I was doing was I was having to go through it frame by frame, and then just pasting the word bubbles in myself. I had to imagine what they were saying, and also it took me about 5 hours to get through each episode.
Here's my question, Nick: is when you're doing it frame by frame, how do you go right to left?
I don't know.
But in all seriousness, Nick has actually been watching the anime of this, and there are reasons why Nick actually has read the manga, beyond the fact that it's good.
Yeah, it's been a regular feature on the podcast that Chris Royalty and I do, called Weekly Manga Recap, and it's been one of the more consistent series for the last couple of years. It's honestly, for the amount of stuff that has happened in the series, and beyond that, just the scope of the fandom that it's grown since this anime debuted. It's weird to think that it's only like 4 years old.
Yeah,
like it has taken off incredibly quickly.
We've said
An acceptable pace.
we've said a couple of times that we feel like we're getting we've kind of hit and managed to drop onto the next the next Bleach, the next One Piece, the next Naruto at the beginning.
Yeah, and
so
it's
not 700 episodes to cram through.
which there very well might end up being, considering how those have gone.
yeah. And the manga's up to chapter 200 something or other now.
It just had its 200th chapter, like a few weeks ago.
So yeah, I mean, whew. But we're going to be talking about seasons 2 and 3 because we covered season 1 a while back in another special episode.
Yep.
Yes.
And well, we're going to cover seasons 2 and 3 because we were going to do a season 2 episode, and we kind of forgot. That might have been my
We
fault.
didn't forget. We simply lost that thought.
We intentionally delayed it until we could get Nick on. That's totally what happened.
Aw,
that
you
was-
guys.
And then season 3 happened, and they made this really big.
Kinda, actually. Honestly, we were talking about doing season 2 like right as season 3 popped up, and we're like,
Okay, so I guess we're watching season 3.
yeah.
So, considering how long it took you guys to discuss the first season, we'll be here until approximately 3 a.m. because not only are there 2 seasons to discuss, but they're both twice as long as season 1.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we don't have to talk about all the characters because, well, we did that already. If you don't know who the main cast is already, watch the show. Goddammit!
Watch the show, but yeah, to come into this, go watch the first special. You have all the opinions we have of the characters through season 1.
Although, perfectly honest, like the evolution of one character in particular is
Yes, and we're going to talk about that. So I think we're going to try to keep this sort of a fairly loose discussion because we got 2 seasons to get through talking about our sort of impressions of it, and going blow by blow makes no goddamn sense. Not if we want to get this done in a reasonable amount of time.
I do want to say before we actually get started talking about the show itself that I have immensely enjoyed basically like being a just getting to be like a fan again. I discuss a lot of manga and read a lot of manga for the podcast, but this has been a different experience. It's like going back to the days when I was 12 years old and watching Dragon Ball, basically, for for the level of phenomenon that's getting shared among people who watch the show, and getting to enjoy it with the number of people who also enjoy it. And of course, it also leads to disagreements among fans about who is a good character and who is not, and it's okay because everyone's wrong but me. You either agree with me or you're wrong, but
well, I mean, it's like you've said yourself. I mean, this show's only been around for about 4 years now, and even we've seen it already influencing other characters, or people attempting to, they're playing off the templates you see in this show.
Capitalizing on the trend,
and trying to come up with something very, very similar. I mean, the direct comparison we made when we watched Killing Bites.
Oh lordy.
Yeah, but you could tell from the start the lead character in that was desperately trying to be Bakugo
and failing badly.
Absolutely failing.
Killing Bites. That would have been a show I loved when I was 11.
Well, the Killing Bites is like older than My Hero Academia, though.
The manga actually might be. You might be right. I wouldn't be surprised. The show just came out, but
yeah.
So it might. It probably. Yeah. I mean, Bakugo is not a new character archetype. Let's be real.
No, let's be real. Like everyone's playing off of archetypes in My Hero.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the characters are generally pretty simple for the most part, and that's actually been sort of the show's strength, given how big the cast is.
Yeah, you have to have immediately identifiable characters in terms of what they look like, what they can do, and what they act like. When you've got, we're just going to put, the entire 20-student class in the opening sequence, even if not all of them get to do very much. But we're going to put that entire class in there and make sure that you know who all of them are.
Yep.
And, so.
On that point, then, just lastly before we do get started, 'cause it's such a minor thing, it doesn't warrant bringing up as we actually go through it. Was it season 2 that they actually started doing that, where they would put reminders of like names and powers when
they did
anyone showed us?
They did in season 1.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I thought they got the original.
Started in the second half of season 2.
Did it? You might be right.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
I think everyone got that splashed to begin with when they're first introduced.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Then
actually,
then it started happening every single time they showed up on screen.
I will say that most of the basis for a lot of what I have to say about the anime series itself is in how it adapts the manga.
Yep.
So the way that they're voiced, the way that they come across in animation, and also just like additions that are made in the writing and all of that. And that is my biggest complaint about the anime, is that it started doing that and it won't stop doing it.
Yeah.
Every single time that a character shows up, you have to get their name and their quirk. And it's not so much of a problem if I were just like watching the original version, but because I'm watching an English production of it, I have to put up with, here is their name scrawled across the upper third of the screen. And if there's like 3 characters that come up, I can't see anything that's happening because there's white text.
It's like we
spray on the image.
That's my problem with subs in general.
It's not the sub; it's in the dub that does it too, because they keep that Japanese writing.
But what I'm saying about subs in general is like, particularly something with a really well animated show that I want to watch all of that. But to get the dialogue, my eyes are glued to the bottom third of the screen.
I mean, I understand to a degree. Like, I mean, you could say, okay, look, you can leave Deku off, you can leave All Might off, you can leave Todoroki off, you can leave, the Bakugo, you can leave the main. But then at the same time, if you leave it off for those guys and then do it for like the rest of the class, you're basically saying that these are minor characters and don't matter.
That's the point.
Except they do. So it's either do it for one or do it for none.
I guess I understand that. With the cast as large as My Hero has, then you basically either have to have faith in the audience to just remember who they are, or just beat
them over the head with it.
Yeah. So.
I think they sort of, in season 3 at least, I do believe they started dialing back. Like they went back to showing the names and quirks at the beginning of the season for everybody, and then basically it trailed off as the season went along, if I remember correctly.
Every episode.
Really? For everybody?
It's in every episode, yeah.
I guess I just started ignoring it. I'll be honest.
I think it did start to bother me less as time went by. Actually, that I'll talk a little bit more about seeing the movie later, but they don't do that in the movie.
Oh, thank God.
One advantage I will say for when they do cover the screen and text for that shit is at least they do it on relatively static shots.
And at least they just get it out of the way at the beginning, basically.
Yeah. Here's the person's first thing. Here's their blah, 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 blah.
I think it would be a good idea, Peter, if they basically did what you said you thought that they did.
Yep.
Or for example, if they just showed the quirk and name, like just if a character hasn't shown up in a while, it's like, by the way, here's
exactly. That would make sense, especially like at the start of the season. And it's been 6 months since you watched the show. Just in case you forgot, or you haven't been watching the show. Why have you not been watching the show?
And you can even do that with, Deku and Bakugo
sure.
and everyone. If they haven't shown up for a couple of episodes because you're focusing on, minor characters instead. It's like, oh, hey, remember, this is the main character. But then, like, okay, you show up, Deku gets a 5-episode long fight or whatever. You don't need to make his name pop up every single time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to start watching on part 4 of the 5-episode fight. And even if I do, then, well, I'll still want to go back, and you won't change my mind just because his name and quirk appear. I won't even know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like
go back to episode 1. Wait, his name's Deku? That's fucking stupid. I'm out.
Actually, that's the thing. Is that there's that thing that Linkara says. I forget who he quotes when he says it.
Yeah. But, every issue is someone's first.
Every issue is someone's first, and every episode of My Hero Academia is set up in such a way that they always have the same opening at the beginning. It's like, we live in this world where there are these things called quirks, and this is a university for raising heroes, and I'm heading towards my dreams. Like, okay, it takes like 20 seconds, and when you're binging stuff, it gets a little annoying because you have to skip through it. But well, you skip through it and the opening at the same time, so whatever. And if you start on that and then you get through it, then it's like, okay, that's a good way to introduce someone to it. So it's very friendly for new viewers.
It is. They have thought of that, which I think is there are shows that I wish they do that sort of thing with. Honestly, there are shows with big casts that really could stand to or complicated sort of plot, complicated concepts that could really use a little bit of recap at the start of. But at any rate,
I guess it is very embarrassing whenever you do this big reveal of a character and it's like a character you haven't seen in forever, and then you as the viewer go, "Who's that? Who is that?"
Like, he looks familiar. I mean, on the plus side, the character designs in the show are so distinctive from one another. That's less of a problem.
Yes,
it's less. That's part of comes down to the design of the show, and I'm assuming to the manga is that like everyone has very distinct profiles. You can tell who they are at a glance. But yeah, no, it's a massive fucking cast, so I don't mind it as much as other people seem to.
Yeah, I will say I think the only characters that
do it on fairly static shots. Thank fucking God.
Oh God, yes. I think the only characters that you might confuse on a silhouette test would be Kirishima and Tetsu.
And that's deliberate.
By design, right?
Yes. And one of them is a very minor character.
With an amazing name.
Yes. But yeah, so season. So I think we'll just. I want to quickly sort of break down for season 2 what the major sort of things that happen in it very quickly, and just sort of say what they are. And we can talk. We can go a bit more in depth if we want to on them. So basically, it's broken down into. I think. Okay, let me quickly look at this here. So there is this. There is the sports festival.
Mm-hmm. That is almost the entire thing. Honestly,
it's not actually.
It's like the first half of the season, I should say.
And roughly, but yeah. Then there's the Deku trains with Gran Torino. There's the whole thing with Stain, and then there's the final exams for the year, and that's season 2.
Final exam for like the semester or something.
Or yeah, it might be the semester's final exam, something like that.
Because there's still class 1A.
You're right. It's a semester. Right, it's semester finals. You were correct. It's the finals leading up to summer break for the summer camp.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I've actually got there's a breakdown here. So the sports festival arc is 12 episodes, the first half of the season, like you said.
Yeah.
The hero killer arc, which is Stain, is eight episodes. And then the final exams covers the last 5.
Yep.
Yes.
So
a whole arc in 5 episodes. Eat that, Dragon Ball.
My hero in general does tend to have actually relatively short arcs for the mainline shonen series.
We refer to it as that bastard show because as soon as you're getting into it, it ends. It's so incredibly paced. It's unreal. You don't realize how much is going on and how fast the episode goes by.
Well, Gav and Eric do. I actually just sit there going,
it is absolutely a bastard show for that reason.
The pacing is great. It's like, we're about to end the episode because we're clearly coming up to a cliffhanger. Yep, there it is. You bastard, says Eric. I'm like, yeah.
See, this is why I've enjoyed binging the show so much.
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't have to wait a week.
Yeah, we've actually this is the show. One of the very few shows we watch week to week.
Yeah.
Season 3, Nicole and I mostly watched week to week, and it was a very different experience doing that. She would always get upset at the end of an episode. It's like, no, I wanted the thing that I liked happening in the manga to happen in the anime now.
You should have seen this on a You should have seen this on an off week when there wasn't an episode. We're like, wait, what?
Oh God, yeah. Or
really...
like for you had those couple of weeks. You were watching the dub, right, Nick?
Yeah, and so it was being simultaneously made available on Funimation's site for the first roughly half of season 3. And then all of a sudden they just like, yeah, so our deal is over, so we have to wait like 2 weeks before we do this. So that happened like on a break or something like that.
Yep.
So I had to wait like 3 weeks for a new episode all of a sudden.
Sucks, Zor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure that Funimation would have preferred to just keep on airing things.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, they only had the rights to do it for like the first half of the season. And then it's like, well, I guess I just better wait now. I can't remember exactly when it happened anymore, but it was right when they were gearing up for something that I really wanted to happen. It was towards the.
Wasn't it like right? I think I remember you talking about on Twitter. It's like right before the big confrontation between All for One and All Might.
Yes. So yeah, it was during the whole summer training / Bakugo kidnapping arc.
Yep.
So yeah, it was a pretty bad time to do it.
I guess it could have been worse. It could have happened mid-fight between All for One and All Might.
That's true. It's not like it left on. I mean, it left on a cliffhanger, but it didn't. I don't think it left in the middle of a fight. I can't remember exactly when it happened. I'm just staring at the Wikipedia article right now, and it doesn't have that information. But there was that, and there was also like all of my favorite moments that I look forward to are very minor things,
right?
Like season 4. I have basically mapped out about how much we're going to get, and I think that we're going to get the next 2 arcs, because the first arc coming up is going to be a very long one.
Yes, it is.
But the minor arc that follows it is just short enough that I think that they will put the entirety of it in the 4th season based on how much season 3 covered, and that's the one that I'm really looking forward to. I won't give anything away for Gav and Eric and anyone listening, but if you haven't read the manga, then it's not nearly as important, but it's so much more fun. Okay. Honestly, this whole thing with the overhaul that's coming up, I'm not actually looking forward to it all that much, because it wasn't the best stretch of the manga. In my opinion.
Had its moments.
Yes.
But I agree with you. But the bit after it's really, really fun. I agree completely.
And that's kind of the way that I am with stuff that shows up in the anime is, yes, the fights are great. It's a very well done show. But the stuff that I look forward to the most is the minor stuff where you see like the class just kind of getting to be normal students for a little bit. Even I forget when it happened. I think it was during season 2. There's like the conversation among everyone where they're just casually yes, because it's leading up to the final exams for the semester. And there's the conversation among everyone about how they're doing on their actual schoolwork and how they did on the written exam, and you get to see how everyone in the class is ranked. And some of them it makes perfect sense. Like, Yaoyorozu is ranked #1 in the class. Of course she is. She's a fucking genius.
Yep.
Deku is ranked really highly because he's a giant nerd. But then it's like Bakugo's like #2.
Yeah.
It's like, oh right, he's a genius.
Bakugo's that's one of the big things unsurprisingly, the big sort of actual sort of Deku's arc is important. It's the main part of the show. But the evolution of Bakugo over the course of these 2 seasons is really interesting.
It's goddamn sublime is what it is.
Yeah.
Bakugo is the most important character overall in these 2 arcs because Deku is just kind of constantly important. And we see not the end of All Might's importance, but his downturn over the course
it's a transition from a particular mode of being important to an entirely different mode for him.
For both of them, I guess.
Yeah.
Because Bakugo's, he doesn't stop being Deku's rival, but he stops being his bully.
Yep.
Which I think that a lot of people are still getting used to that. That's one of the things about the series that kind of annoys me a little bit is that the fan base is very passionate, but it's also very reactive. I've said on Twitter that I'm kind of annoyed by the way that the rap that Mineta gets, and I totally understand. He can be a very annoying character, and he can also be a very creepy character. I will not fault anyone who gets skeezed out by him.
He is my least favorite character, but I will give
totally fine.
And I give him a lot of crap for mostly comedic reasons.
Yeah, he's there for comic relief, and if you don't find him funny, then what the fuck is he there for? I totally get that.
Yep.
It's the part that continues to annoy me is that people are just like, he's so disgusting, so I'm going to crop him out of images and stuff.
For crying out loud,
guys, I understand if you don't like him, and if you don't want to acknowledge him, I get that. But if you are literally going to the pain of painting over him or pixelating him out of stuff, you're just calling further attention to it.
Yeah. Especially if you are saying outright that you're doing that.
So I think that's counterproductive.
Yep.
One of the most memorable parts of the going to see the movie a few weeks ago was because it was limited run and probably should not have been. It was the only fans really going to see it. Fans and their parents. I'll be real. A few parents definitely got dragged to it, judging just by the age of some of the people who were there. But very passionate fans and stuff. And so every single time that it's like, hey, a character has shown up and they're going to be here, is big reaction. And there's this one long string of just and this character is here too, where Uraraka shows up, and Yaoyorozu and Jiro and Ida. And then Kaminari Mineta show up, and so because Mineta shows up on screen, everyone goes, "No! Boo!" And then they kind of forgot to hate him over the rest of it because he was actually used really effectively in the movie.
Good.
So.
I'm glad. Well, here's the thing: Mineta has been used well a few times.
Yeah,
there's no question about that.
I understand the Mineta hate, but at the same time, dude, we all knew a guy like that in high school.
Yeah.
Some of us were that guy.
I think that it has more to do with, I totally understand that This is a touchy thing, so I'm wanting to take a moment to make sure that I word it correctly. The time that we live in is very much less forgiving of that kind of behavior, and deservedly so.
Yep.
And I think that people point out, is like, hey, young people watch this show, and it's like, yes, it's one thing to have that character be treated as an annoyance, but honestly, at times he should just be treated as being completely intolerable. Because of what he is doing, and no adult is like stop harassing the female students or anything like that. And I think that it is too much to expect realistically a feel-good shonen series that doesn't want to deal with that kind of stuff, and also is in Japan where the culture is different, to do that. I totally understand why you have that standpoint on him, though, and I think that it is problematic, and I do not fault anyone for disliking or being annoyed by him or any of that. I literally just think that calling attention to him by censoring him, or not even censoring him, by blurring him out of images and stuff, is just counterproductive, and that annoys me.
I would agree. And honestly, I
agree with that. Like the attempt to, in attempting to obliterate him, you magnify his influence.
Yes.
Yeah. And honestly, I will say, as much as I actually do kind of wish that, Eraser would occasionally just tell him to shut the fuck up. Just once or twice. At least they basically don't present what Mineta is doing as being as something that the students seem to be really okay with. They're all just like, oh, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to really like him that much.
Yeah. Everyone, there's no one that really tolerates his shit. Occasionally Kirishima and Lightning Kid, whose name I can't remember. Kaminari.
And that's the part that gets me, is that especially in the anime they play up Kaminari and Mineta being the class perverts.
Yep.
And then I'm like, why doesn't anyone hate Kaminari then?
Yeah, that's the one that gets me.
Because Kaminari's hot.
Honestly, that might be it, and I think that it has to do with.
I was joking, but
well, no. I think that it has to do with there is a bit more to Kaminari's character than just the perverted jokes.
Plus, he's a tall, slim, blonde boy, so
Well, even beyond that, when you think about it,
Nick's right. He's a more complicated and more nuanced character than Mineta.
Mineta's had it's coming up later in the show. He has one shining moment where he,
and it's based on him being a pervert still. So
yeah.
He had one little moment at the end of season 1, but mostly just because he was inspired by Deku and his bravery.
That's a running theme for all of the characters, though. It's hardly unique to Mineta.
Yeah, they haven't really given Mineta anything positive to work with, as such.
I will say... Oh, go ahead, Gav. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that was... Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I will say, if somehow they manage to organically have Mineta get his head out of his own ass over the course of the next, couple of arcs in the manga, I'll be impressed. That would actually, if you actually have Mineta, Mineta's sort of just awfulness become part of an actual ongoing character arc, that would change a lot of things about him, I think. But they have to do it in a way that it's not just, and suddenly he's not a horrible person.
He just shows up, he's suddenly 6'2" and full of I have become a much more caring individual. Just has the weird great balls on his head. I now respect women and their bodily autonomy.
What the fuck just happened?
When he was first going, the one trope that isn't in that class. And you've got a couple that come close, but you've got the class clowns and that kind of stuff. You don't have that one guy who acts out because he wants attention. You've got guys like Todoroki and Bakugo who are fuck you, leave me alone or I'll kill you. But you don't have that one guy that acts like an asshole because he likes the attention and he wants people to pay attention to him. I kind of thought that might be where they were going with Mineta. It's not an evil, it's not a bad-spirited kind of way that he acts out, but he's acting out to get attention.
Well, that's because they have Monoma for that.
Who's Monoma?
He's the asshole in Class 1B.
Right!
Right.
I mean, they haven't actually said that that's the reason why he does it, but honestly...
It's why he does it. Yeah, no.
It's clearly why he does it. Yeah.
No.
It's obviously why he does it.
Look, I'm awesome! Look at me! Look at me! Stop
yes.
ignoring me!
Yes, Monoma, the Mineta of Class 1B.
Oh.
Yeah.
Also, he just likes getting hit by what's-her-face.
Well, yeah, because basically almost everyone in the class just like, please don't
Well, I mean,
equate
it's
us with
the
him."
same. This is what reinforces Mineta's little dynamic. I mean, yeah, every class has one, and every class has the one that keeps him in check. Because for as many times as I've forgotten his name already, he gets beat down by Monoma, gets hit by Big Hand Girl.
Kendo.
Kendo, yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
She's great, by the way.
I did not pay. I am terrible with names, and I didn't really pay attention to Class 1B.
That's okay. This is a lot of what I do with Chris. But
as much as you watch Class 1A, every time Mineta comes out with something, it's usually Sue giving a clap round the back of the head.
That's true.
It was awesome. She's
yes, Sue was phenomenal. I mean,
yeah. It's like, well, I can't remember who it was, but one of the characters is getting really irate, and one of the female characters might have been. I'm looking at her face, and I can't even remember what she's called. Araka. And she's having a rant or something. I think it's when she comes back from the training thing, and she's like all super angry. And Mineta starts going, "Oh, PM," and before he can get the last syllable out, Sue just beats him across the face.
It's like, no.
That took me several times watching it to understand where he was even going to. It was because he says it so quietly and so quickly that it's really hard to catch. And eventually, like, Nicole turns to me, he's saying PMS. And I go, oh, okay. That's why she slapped him. Okay.
Yeah,
and he deserved it because Mineta basically always deserves it.
I guess that's kind of the thing, is that like Mineta is held in check by his classmates, and so probably Aizawa just they're doing a good job of keeping him in check.
That's largely what seems to be Aizawa's thing, is that he lets them self-police, and is smart enough to know when he needs to step in.
Yeah, I mean especially the way like I don't remember when they held the vote for class president, class rep. I think that it might have even been
that's season one.
That's really early.
But he just like leaves the room or something like that.
It's like, okay, you guys had to pick a class president. Go.
He doesn't interfere, and then like they are able to settle things on their own. And a lot of times that's what happens. He leaves it up to them to decide what they're going to do. For example, in upcoming season 4, he leaves the decision up to them and stuff. And yeah, only if they're unable to actually make progress on their own on certain things will he actually, all right, guys, I'm gonna get out of my fucking sleeping bag and tell you kids what the hell to do.
Well, I mean, that's one thing that I do like, and they bring it up multiple times with multiple characters. They don't interfere with them, but you can tell absolutely 100% they are all completely aware of every personality trait and flaw that these kids have got. Regardless of who it is, even the top of the class guys, they know their problems. They know what could be a problem later on in life if they get released out to be heroes and they're a raging pervert. That kind of shit's gonna be flagged up.
Yep.
Yeah, they bring up like, this is Bakugo's issue, this is Todoroki's issue.
Yeah,
this is Deku's issue. I mean,
yeah. That's the entire point of the semester final exams. Is this is why we've paired them up with this person, or this is why we're putting them up against this pro hero, is because this is their limitation, and we need to test their ability to go beyond that.
Right.
Well, that was the one I was going to bring up. It was. I mean, they do it for everyone, but it's especially poignant with Momo and Todoroki.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's so good.
Yeah.
So can we just like skip the rest of season 2 and just talk about the semester exams, because like that's my favorite part of it.
I want to talk about two things before we get to that. Honestly, I mean,
I'm sorry I sidetracked us with the whole Mineta discussion.
No,
no,
dude.
cool.
Dude,
Like that never happens.
that never happens with us, man.
I want to talk about Deku versus Todoroki because that's my favorite fight.
There's so much to get through in the school festival. Yeah.
There are three major things I want to talk about in the school festival, honestly.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah.
One is Deku's first opponent, whose name escapes the
Shinso.
We have to talk about Shinso. We have to talk about Uraraka versus Bakugo.
No. Shinso's not important here. He is never going to show up ever again in order to do anything of importance.
The thing with Shinso, though, is he
is
illustrates
never
a
going to be
lot of the
relevant.
flaws that Stain has an issue with.
He is never going to be relevant again.
By the way, he's going to be relevant again in later seasons.
Here's the thing with Shinso.
5,
Probably, yeah. It'll be a while, but yeah, he's shown back up in the manga, and it's kind of important.
He's shown back up in the anime. He was in the last episode.
No, that's not what I mean. No, Gav. No. He's important. He gets to be important again.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I want to say about Shinso is that Shinso's whole dilemma, it illustrates a lot of the issues that Stain has with Hero Society. And that's why he's important in this season.
Yep.
That's true.
Because Shinso has a power that is useless unless he's facing another sapient being.
So he was not able. That whole entrance exam thing that
failed.
That
Completely boned him.
Yeah, he was unable to use his
mind
brainwashing on robots.
Because of the nature of his power, which is mind control for those who don't know.
Brainwashing.
Yeah, he's completely prejudged as a villain or
someone who should be a villain.
Someone who should be a villain and as someone to be distrusted, regardless of how he acts and what he does. And this bleeds entirely into Stain's issue with society in general and superhero society in particular.
Yep.
It doesn't you should be judged by your motives and your actions, not by anything else. And Stain's got a giant bug up his ass about that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm gonna stab this guy.
Yeah, Stain does have a few issues, shall we say? But yeah, no, that I absolutely adore. It's Shino, right? Shinso. I adore Shinso.
He even has a villain name. It's got Z's in it.
No, it doesn't.
It's Shinso.
Is it Shinso?
Yes.
It's like Ichimaru's Shikai. Come on, guys. Does anyone know?
No, you're on your own there, Nick.
I know what you're talking about.
Stabbed to death, Shinso. Come on.
Nick, I remember it.
And do you remember that his bad guy had like 5 different abilities or some shit?
Oh God.
Anyway.
Yeah. Bleach got dumb. But yeah, I really thought I one of the great takeaways about that is, and I love the fact that the audience he impressed the audience.
Yeah,
he did,
and it became very clear that this dude wants to be a hero. He is a good dude.
It's just that he has creepy looking eyes, you know.
He's creepy looking, and he's got a power that makes people go, nah! And understandably to a certain degree. Mind control is always a little spooky.
I would have troubles trusting myself around a guy with that power.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you never know, he might suddenly take advantage of you. So
yeah,
just because you talk back to him.
Fortunately, he's a really good dude.
But he's a really, really good guy, and it's just you have to get past that issue.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really interesting.
I think one of the things that I actually found very interesting, especially with this arc and as what's followed on, it started to get a little bit more. I wouldn't say grown up or mature or anything, but it's definitely a little bit darker as it starts to progress. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that came up that really started to be discussed a lot online was who's going to be the traitor. Not is there a traitor? Who's going to be the traitor? So who's going to be the hero that turns to the dark side? Because that always happens, right?
Well, that's something that
I mean, they've been hinting there's a mole, but
yeah, or they've come right out and said it a couple times.
But we don't no idea where.
Yeah,
it's just somewhere within UA.
It could be a teacher. It could be a student.
It could be staff.
Yeah, and eventually they just decide we can't just go on not trusting each other. So we just should believe that there is no mole. Now, it's never been confirmed or disconfirmed or disproven that there is a mole. It's something that is still discussed among the fandoms, like, oh man, maybe it's Kaminari, because there was one like early sketch of him where he looked evil. I keep on saying it's Hagakure because she could literally be anywhere and you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
Girl. But who knows? And it could very well just be like, no, there was no mole.
See, the thing that I didn't mention this, but we did mention right in the third season, the intro. There's that ending shot that makes me think about that, because Hagakure is right there, front and center of the shot.
Yeah, and she's striking a heroic pose, Gav.
But she's invisible, therefore you can see everyone. So it looks like a huge shot of everyone, just the whole class in poses. But Hagakure is there, front and center, ahead of everyone else.
Because you can see through her, so you can see everyone behind her.
And honestly, I love that. That's a great,
very cool.
It's a great visual, but I think I actually do think there's something to that, because why would you put an invisible person in the group and she's done nothing?
Because it's an awesome picture, dude.
No, I think he means why did they create the character and have him in there if they're doing nothing with her? And
well.
But that's speculation.
Let me pull up students 11 through 20 in class 1A.
Yeah, that's
yeah. That's speculation.
It's a big fucking class.
Yeah, speculation for another time. But I mean, with this one, obviously you've got Shinso, who they thought that everyone has been expecting Bakugo to turn and go evil.
Even characters in the series.
That's the entire reason that the villains kidnap him in season 3. But I want to get to that because there's
we discussed, anyone who thought Bakugo was going to go and join the bad guys there hasn't been paying attention.
So Uraraka versus Bakugo is...
Well, before we move on to that real quick, just briefly, this is Deku's fight with Shinso is also when the vestiges of One for All...
Right!
Yeah.
And because he gets, brainwashed by his quirk, because Shinso provokes him into talking, which is how his quirk is triggered. And so he basically is just going to have Deku walk out of the ring and force a ring out. But Deku's One for All activates, and basically all of the people who have used One for All before essentially get him to wake up. They give him enough willpower to snap his own finger, and the pain causes the brainwashing to deactivate. And then Deku just walks over to Shinso and just judo tosses him out of the ring. But then, because I don't think that there's really an important... Yeah, there is basically no important fight up until you get Shinso. Well, I guess there's the introduction of Hatsume, who is the
Gadgeteer
support girl. She is an insane genius, basically, who creates all of these devices in the support course, where they make support devices for actual pro heroes to use. And she basically outfits her opponent, who is Ida, with a bunch of devices when they fight against each other, and he is like, she was kind enough to give me all of these things, and of course she's doing them so that she can just manipulate him like a puppet and drive him around the field like an RC car. And then she gives up after she gives a promotion with she's hacked into the auditory system so that she can speak through a headset. It's like, this is my new baby, where you can use this in order to do this and this in order to do this, and he just trying to grab her, but she just keeps on turning him away with one of the devices, and then she's like, and I forfeit. Thank you. Make sure that you recruit me to support stuff.
She would, if she had more screen time, she would be my favorite character. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, I will say
she can't show up too often, or else everything will implode around her from how much she overtakes everything.
There is only one thing that we did skip over a little bit there that I think should be mentioned, is the actual the tournament, the actual combat side of it isn't the main, isn't the whole of the tournament, the festival arc. There's the preliminary rounds, and I think the first round especially, the middle round was just a bit of okay, but the second round especially, the first one, the race, was a good way of actually bringing Deku, Todoroki, and Bakugo onto that even level.
Yep.
Before that, it was clearly Bakugo and Todoroki were the top of the class, and Deku was kind of trying to keep up. He's got that power set, but he's still trying to make up a lot of ground. And that race just brought into a clearer focus that these guys, they've got different strengths and different different qualities. But it brought them all even. They've each got a strong quirk. They've each got their brain and know how to use it, and make the most of the ability around them. And they are heads and shoulders above the rest of the class.
So it's a good thing that Deku knew that the landmines that he was walking over were basically like Super Smash Brothers weapons. They don't actually harm you very much, but they'll blast you a long ways away. Non-lethally, of course.
Yeah, well, that's why he used the big metal plate.
So, Deku manages to reach basically the final round of this school festival arc, which is a 16-person single elimination ladder tournament.
Yep. And
so he beats Shinso. Then you get Uraraka versus Bakugo in the first round as well. And
that fight that confrontation does two things really well in my opinion.
Yes.
One, it basically shows it allows Uraraka to show that she truly wants to get better, and how she's been inspired by the people around her to realize that there's more she has to do. But it also highlights one of the things about it starts highlighting that Bakugo has some admirable qualities.
The thing that happens that I'm so glad this series did, honestly, was, Bakugo is known to be one of the most powerful people in this class.
Right.
He's been standing out in each round of this tournament. Not as much as Todoroki, but he has been standing out.
Yep.
He also, of course, has this reputation of this vicious, ultra-competitive person, which is spoken of as a positive quality during the second round, because they have basically it's a
cavalry battle,
team competition at that point, and it's a cavalry battle, where there are teams of 4 carrying each other around, and Baku is leading one, and they have enough points to proceed to the next round, what happens is that Monoma is leading some guys, and he steals Bakugo's headband and is mocking him and stuff like that. And then they're like, and then we're just gonna pace around and make sure that we win because we've got enough to reach the top 4. And Bakugo's like, we're gonna kill them. And Aizawa observes as he's watching, like, this is the difference between those who will be pro heroes and those who will fail, is that drive to be the very best. Like people who do not just stop when they have just enough, but will keep on going beyond that. And Bakugo destroys Monoma and gets their band to get their points, and then it's just like, and now we're gonna keep on going. We're going to get every single one.
No one else qualifies.
The only thing that stops him is that they basically have about 30 seconds too little, and also Todoroki is one of their opponents. But they managed to get enough, and everyone proceeds through the next round. So Bakugo is fighting against Uraraka, who everyone's a whole bunch of people in the audience are just like, oh, that poor girl. Oh no. Oh, come on, leave her. Stop it. You're just bullying her. Stop it. While she's giving it her all and fighting back, and eventually Aizawa gets really, really pissed off, and it's like, who the hell in the audience has been saying this stuff? Whoever the hell you are, if you're a pro hero, you should just hang it up right now because you do not understand what is actually going on right now. Uraraka has not given up. She is giving her all to fight against this, and Bakugo is acknowledging that because he has not stopped taking her seriously.
Yep.
Yeah. And it also shows Uraraka's own cleverness and ability to improvise, because she basically manages to convince Bakugo to largely destroy the platform they're fighting on.
Yes.
And because she's been running around touching the platform the whole time, her power is to levitate anything she touches. She's levitated all of the rubble, and it catches Bakugo completely by surprise. And he has to blow his wad to survive. Luckily, Uraraka's also already blown her wad, so it's simply a matter of finishing her off at that point.
And Bakugo also is so convinced that she got the strategy from like Deku instead, because it's something that he would have thought of.
Yep.
And so he like goes and is like, "Why the hell did you do that?" And he's like, "She came up with that herself."
Yeah, she did not want my help, and my plan was not that at all.
Yeah, it was completely different. And it also is important to establishing the real core of the relationship between Uraraka and Deku, which is that Uraraka admires Deku's resolve. She actually says it's a line that's repeated basically every single time that the fight is flashbacked to. I'll be just like Deku. I'm going to win and be just like Deku. And they eventually just put out there is like, okay, Uraraka, yeah, she's got a fucking crush on Deku. She just does. Okay, like. And although it's revealed in a really hilarious way, which I want to talk about later, but they established the foundation for that is like, this is what she likes about him, though.
Yep.
She actually admires him, and so that's why she's drawn to him.
Yeah, it's not suddenly the entire class falls in love with Deku because he's the lead character. It's like, no, there's an actual reason.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and it's really just her.
Yeah,
like a lot of other students admire him, but it's not the same thing. But there's one other little bit after that. After she's gone back to the locker room to basically to cry and call her parents. There's this bit where some of the members of Class A are actually in the stands talking about I think
it's Kaminari.
I think it is sort of talking about Bakugo maybe going a little bit too hard. She on someone like that week, and Bakugo sort of leads this. What part of that do you think was weak?
Yes,
I absolutely loved that. That was like, oh,
no, dude, she's not weak. I could not let up on her.
Are you stupid? Oh yes, you are. Yeah. You're not me. Yeah.
Well, and this point also,
he is kind of dim.
I think that they basically established that Uraraka is like the third person whose name Bakugo actually remembers or something like that.
Yeah.
Because he knows Deku, of course.
Yep.
And he knows Todoroki because, well, he calls him Icy Hot, which is actually really funny. But he knows who Todoroki is by reputation. But during the school festival, especially when they have to team up in the cavalry battle, there are people who are like, "Hey, Bakugo, do you want to team up?" And he's like, "First, tell me your quirks and names," because he doesn't remember who anyone is. He's been going to school for weeks at this point. And one of the people he says this to becomes like his best friend.
Yes, Hiroshima, yes.
So Uraraka is like one of the first people that he actually acknowledges as being worthy of his attention because she proved it, and that's why you have Uraraka and Bakugo shippers. It's not one of the weirdest ships I've seen, though. So.
No, I could. Yeah, I get why people might do that.
I put up with 2 years of Zutara shippers.
Oh Jesus, fuck!
And when Katara and Zuko only hated each other for But the way that they looked at each other when he had her tied up, he was trying to interrogate her to find out what the Avatar was. But they're like fire and water, the yin and yangs. Oh my god!
Shut up!
Shut up!
I hated fan shippers for like a decade because of that shit.
I don't blame you.
Toph is clearly the best.
I did like how that little bit, the bit afterwards when Bakugo's explaining himself, and as you mentioned, the bit with Eraser when he's pointing it all out, he just shows you that little bit of extra depth to Bakugo. And again, he's not just a class asshole. He's a asshole, but he's also very smart, and he does respect legitimately people who are powerful around him. He doesn't dismiss anyone. He just can't understand why everyone else isn't on his level.
Well, it's also the fact that Bakugo, I'm gonna be honest, the big reason why Bakugo is such an asshole is he feels a tremendous amount of pressure to live up to all the expectations around him, and he's probably not entirely aware of it himself, but yeah,
he's not, because he's 15.
Yeah, but he's got a significant amount of an inferiority complex. Why he's speaking
of Avatar, there is a great line. There's a great episode called "Bitter Work," which is about Aang and Zuko training simultaneously, and Zuko, can't master lightning bending when Iroh's trying to teach it to him, and so Iroh says, like, the only way that you're ever going to get over this is to let go of your shame and be truly calm and collected. And Zuko says, "What do you mean shame? I'm as proud as ever." And Iroh says, "Pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. Only true humility will allow you to overcome this." So, and you see that completely with Baku over the course of these 2 seasons, is that he has this tremendous pride in himself, and then he feels bitter inferiority every time that something doesn't go right, until everything finally starts to become resolved inside of him at the end of the final season
of season 3,
where things start clicking and you start seeing the bigger picture.
And let's see, so there's that, and I think that the next important fight after that is Todoroki against Deku,
which is probably my favorite fight in the entire series.
There's some cool goddamn visuals that they have.
Not only is it beautifully animated, like, oh my god, is like, wow, did I have an animation boner during that? But it's just the what's going on between the characters. Like Todoroki is a character who has had everything handed to him but has not had an easy life. Like, he has a lot of advantages, but he's basically like been abused left, right, and center in every possible way by his father, and utterly rejects what he's inherited from his father. While Deku's
to give you an idea, Todoroki's good parent burned his eye. So
poured scalding water over his face.
Yeah, she's responsible for the fashionable scar.
Yeah. And so he's refusing to use his fire powers in a fight as a result, largely as a way of sticking it to his dad.
Yeah, fuck you, Dad! I don't need your goddamn fire powers.
I don't need anything you gave me. Fuck you.
Fuck you, Dad.
And Deku's like struggled from birth to get to where he is, and to see someone who has these advantages turn them away for a point of pride infuriates Deku, and he almost instantly realizes the source of it, and spends the entire fight convincing Todoroki to use his fire powers and make them his own, not to associate them with his shithole father, but to incorporate it into his own identity and make it part of himself. And it's fucking amazing.
Well, and at this point, Deku still doesn't have full control of his powers. Ironically, he's telling, Todoroki to do this while he does not have full control of One for All.
Right.
And Todoroki
is struggling with it. Yeah.
And Todoroki, who is also very smart, because I'll skip ahead a little bit to something that has only happened in the manga, but basically it's a moment that really made me stop and pause on it. It's where they're being taught math by Ectoplasm, and he puts up this ridiculous calculus problem on the board, and Yaoyorozu and Deku come up with answers in like 30 seconds to it. Deku's is off by a factor of 2 or something like that, but still they had answers within like 30 seconds to this insane calculus problem, and they're like 15. So basically, even those who are at the bottom of the class in terms of their grades, like Kaminari and Ashido, they're still actually really smart.
Yeah.
And that's something that was established. It just doesn't get a lot of focus on, is that only like the top applicants to UA were given the chance to take the practical exam to get in. So, UA students in general are among the best in the country, and those who actually got into classes 1A and 1B are the top of that top class.
Right.
So even the dumb ones are actually smart.
Even Mineta.
Well, Mineta is like number 7 in the class. Yes, he's smart.
He's just a complete
smart.
goober.
He's just a prick.
So Todoroki is, very intelligent is the point, so he's one of the first to recognize, like, I see that you keep on getting pulled aside by All Might, and you seem to have similar powers to him. So that means, and Nick is like, oh no, he's found out what's going on. He knows that I'm an heir. He's taken you under his wing, and you're now his disciple. Yeah.
Let's go with that.
Well done, well spotted, dude.
Oh no, you found me out. Don't tell anyone.
But yeah, the thing about that fight, though, is it's a great example of a classic saying, which is, every fight is a conversation.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And more to the point, it shows the size of Deku's heart, because he largely, like, fucks himself in that fight to help Todoroki through his shit.
I mean,
he uses his finger bang thing. Well, he uses the strategy that he first really employed in the tests in season 1 to only project his powers through one finger, because that's the only way he can actually have a drawn out fight, is by just breaking his fingers one at a time as opposed to breaking his entire arm. And he runs out of fingers during the fight, so he just flicks one of his broken fingers again in order to keep on fighting. And eventually he finally forces Todoroki to see that, like, even if he's inherited his quirk from his father and he's got his fire power as well as his mother's ice power, he can use his fire powers. And he doesn't completely come around in the fight, but in, like, a moment of weakness, I guess you could say, he decides that Deku is right, and so he uses both sets of powers in this wonderful shot where you see, like, the ice and fire flowing around him.
Oh god, it's
like,
so good.
Blasting out the entire screen with blue and red.
It just whites out the screen. It's amazing.
And so Deku loses, which sucks for him. But he like apologizes later, I think, to All Might, because I'm sorry I didn't win here, but I just had to reach out to him. I just felt like I had to actually save him. And All Might's just like, you just can't help but save the person in front of you no matter what, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, Todoroki stops having that breakthrough pretty quickly.
Very quickly.
Well,
in the very next fight.
He achieves a kind of, like, I don't want to say apotheosis, but he has a momentary moment of clarity regarding this, and instantly begins doubting it again. He achieves this moment of clarity, and then, like, outside of that moment, all his issues start coming back, and he's better at working through them, but he's not through them yet.
So when it comes down to Todoroki and Bakugo in the final round, Todoroki's only using his ice powers, and also he's in a depressed, angry, angsty teen funk.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's like Deku got through to him for that one emotional instant, and I mean, there's a great bit in that scene where Endeavor, who is Todoroki's dad, the fire hero, suddenly gets like all high and mighty. He's like, "Yes, finally, my son's embracing his destiny." And Todoroki's like, "Fuck you, Dad. You can't do this."
Now I understand. I don't have to have my life defined by my mother. Yes, Todoroki. Now fulfill it. Oh, fuck you, Dad. Fuck you, Dad. Fuck you, Dad.
Yeah, he gets that little epiphany that okay, he's a fire hero. There must be hundreds of fire heroes out there. Just because he's got fire powers doesn't mean he's Endeavor.
Right.
And you can combine them and use them in a different way. But that's there in that moment in that fight, and then immediately after is like he's doubting whether it was the right thing to do, or whether he's betrayed himself and his mum, whether it means he's given in and he has given Endeavor what he wants.
Well, he made but snap decision in the middle of a tense situation, so of course it comes to a point where he wonders if he did the right thing.
Yep,
It's
absolutely.
realistic.
The issue with that is that wondering goes into the next fight, and he goes back to.
Well, in the next fight, he's fine. He just freezes Ida's legs and is like, "Well, I'm
yeah."
But the
Poor
more
Ida.
the point like with Bakugo is like, again, this speaks to Bakugo's sense of inferiority. Like, why aren't I as good as Deku? Why won't you use your fire against me?
So Bakugo wins, and then he basically, you know, has knocked out Todoroki and is grabbing him by the shirt. It's like, what? Why? I didn't want to win like this. I wanted to prove that I'm really the best, and I'm not really the best if you're not giving it your best against me. And so they have the award ceremony afterwards. Bakugo is won. Todoroki's in second place. Tokoyami's in third. Ida is also in third, but he's not there for reasons we'll get into in a second. And Bakugo has had to basically be chained up to this pillar that Cementos summoned so that he won't attack Todoroki, who's right next to him.
They literally jammed his award medal into his mouth to stop him from just ranting expletives.
Well, he utterly rejects the victory and is infuriated that he would be insulted so. Because it's a direct assault against his entire worldview. Yeah. I am better than Deku because everyone tells me so. Everyone tells me that I have all this potential and everything. I am better than Deku, who until recently was a quirkless shit. And he didn't even use his full potential against me. It's an insult, and probably the deepest one that Bakugo's ever received.
So then Ida's brother has been attacked by a serial killer.
Yeah!
Yeah. And
moving on to the next arc.
They just dump you right into...
Yeah, it's just like, and thwack.
Like, Ida gets eliminated from the tournament and then immediately hears from his mother that his older brother, Ingenium, has been attacked.
And is in the hospital.
And they think that he's not going to make it. He does, but he has been injured to the point where he cannot work as a hero ever again.
I think they come right out and say that his spine is severed. Like, he can't move his legs, which is his whole shtick.
Because, the Ida family, they run
They're
fast.
speedsters, yeah.
And he is being attacked by the hero killer Stain, who, he's got swords and
knives.
people.
And knives, too.
Yep.
And he cuts people and stabs them, and then he eats their blood, because when he eats their blood, depending on their blood type, he can paralyze them. So...
I just want to say for a moment about Stain's design. Stain is the perfect, like, apotheosis of every Iron Age 90s hero.
Very much is.
Jesus Christ, what was... This guy has so much edge that he makes his edges bleed.
He's like if Rob Liefeld was asked to draw a Ninja Turtle.
That's not true at all.
No, he's got feet.
He's actually pretty scrawny when you think about it.
Yeah.
And not nearly enough pouches.
Yeah. Well, he has bandoliers, but
no guns. Not a
swords.
single gun.
Not a single gun. He is just...
I've seen the hero killer, and this is my sword gun.
It's a gun, Frank. A gun that
shoots swords.
But no, he is not a Ninja Turtle. He's not.
I'm sorry, I'm just imagining if Stain's real name were just Frank. You imagine how much influence he would lose immediately. Oh yes, we must follow the word the hero killer Stain. You know his name's Frank, right? Oh, really? All this time I thought he was cool and had like very important philosophy, but I don't know. Maybe he's just a weirdo named Frank who's been going around stabbing good guys.
So
now that I think about it, what kind of guy named Frank cuts his own fucking nose off?
No, people named Frank shoot people, please.
Yeah. Which is actually an interesting point. Like, Stain literally cut off his nose to spite his face.
Ooh.
Yeah. But, the other thing about sort of, in terms of his visual influence, he's not, Eric's right, he's not Liefeldian at all. It's more like a McFarlane design.
He's absolutely
that's what I was going for, yeah.
He's absolutely blah, blah, blah.
He's very clearly influenced by McFarlane's work. Like, there's no question in my mind about that.
Now, to Stain's credit, because he goes around, stabbing heroes that he deems unworthy because he thinks only All Might is worthy to be called a hero. And to his credit, he does actually believe that. He has great vindication.
He does have to a degree. He has a valid point. His whole shtick is that basically heroism has become an industry, and that the heroes themselves. Heroes aren't out to help people anymore. It's a career choice.
Right. You do it for money and you do it for fame.
Personal gain and fame. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uraraka flat out says that.
Yeah.
Like, she says that she wants to be a pro hero so that she can make money. And when Ida and Deku hear that, they're like, what? I mean, that's fine, but, like, I didn't take you as that kind of person.
Yeah, it's a bit more nuance of that with her, but yes.
Yeah.
Well, she says, her parents don't have a lot of wealth, and so she wants to earn a lot of money so that she can take care of them and they can live in comfort. Yeah. And that's why she feels so disappointed in herself when she doesn't win the tournament at the school festival arc, because she feels like she's let them down.
She does also address the point that she didn't really want to tell people her reasons because she didn't want them thinking that she was doing it for greed.
Right. Yeah. They didn't want she didn't want them to think less of her, especially Deku, who seems to who in her mind, and honestly, like in the audience's mind, because it's pretty much everything we've been shown about him, is doing it because he thinks it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
I mean, he also wants to he's also got a little bit of Bakugo to him.
He wants to be. He wants to follow in All Might's shoes because he absolutely worships All Might, and it wants to be as much like him as possible. And part of that is doing it because it's the right fucking thing to do.
It's not, but Nick's right. There is a little bit of wanting to prove he's the best in him.
Yes.
Well, and also he first wanted to become a hero because, as we have been shown about 2 trillion times, he saw a little clip on YouTube of All Might rescuing people and was like, he's so cool, I'm gonna be just like him! So, I mean, yes, he's a good person who wants to save people, but there is, that is the thing that made him actually want to be a hero.
Well, no,
so. All Might's cool, so.
Bakugo and Deku both decided to they wanted to be heroes because they thought All Might was cool.
Yeah.
So.
The reason they thought he was cool were slightly different.
Yes. Which is a big point of what happens in season 3.
You know, it's But anyways, back to Stain.
Thinks that anyone who runs, a hero, what are they freaking called?
Hero agency, I think.
Agencies, is doing it for profit, and so they don't deserve to be a hero because they're, being heroes for hire. Essentially, they are doing it for the money, for the fame, for the glory, and a lot of what we see during the hero training course actually kind of goes to demonstrate that, because we cut around to a lot of different people, especially in the anime, which cuts around to more people than the manga does. And you see how there are different facets to being a hero. So there's going on patrol, and Jiro goes on patrol with this one guy and just kind of goes jogging with him, basically. There's, staying in top combat shape, and so Uraraka goes to train with the best supporting character, who only shows up like once, Gunhead, the martial arts hero.
Yeah,
he's great. His scene's great.
He's got a giant metal mask, and he teaches her how to fight a knife wielder, and then he acts like a prissy little girl whenever he's talking for some reason.
He's great.
I'm going to be honest. I heard his name was Gunhead, and I instantly thought of, 1, that terrible fucking movie from the 80s, and 2, that old Front 242 video where they inject themselves into that movie. So, but I'm a giant... Yeah, that's kind of my shtick. So...
Bakugo gets set up with Best Jeanist, who's like the number 3 hero, and he basically is like, yeah, you got a lot of potential from what I saw in the school festival. Also, you're an asshole, and I'm going to fix that. And he doesn't. He
tries so hard.
He tries so. Well, part of Best Jeanist's thing is he's all about, like, if you project a certain image, then you will start to internalize that image. And he tries to get Bakugo to be a stand-up, clean-cut, nice guy. And all this does is infuriate Bakugo.
Bakugo shows up with like a comb over at class after everything is over from when Bestia styled his hair, and I think Kirishima makes fun of him, so Bakugo yells at him, and immediately his hair explodes back to how it was before. But then there's some, kind of like negative examples that you see of being a hero. There's I forget the name of the snake lady that Kendo and Yaoyorozu.
Oh God!
Is it literally something like Medusa?
Yeah. And basically, she's has this modeling gig that she brings them along for. And so Yaoyorozu and Kendo are talking about, like, is this really part of being a hero? I wonder, was that, well, I don't know. I'm sure that this is important, and there had to be a reason why she picked us, right? And she just tells them, it's because you two are hot. Like, you're attractive ladies, and you'll look good next to me. So that's why I brought you along, so that you can be part of my photo shoot. Anyway, get your boobs out. Essentially, that's all she said.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys are attractive. That's why I chose you. And they're both really, really, really embarrassed to be there.
Oh God, poor Yaoyorozu. Oh my God, she looks mortified.
And she's just in like complete denial the whole time. She's like, this is part of being a pro hero. This is part of being a pro hero. It's important to learn this because it's part of being a pro hero.
Well, Kendo, to Kendo's credit, she just sort of rolls with it. Well, I made the wrong choice. Okay, best do what I can. And
then there's Mineta, who ends up getting with Mount Lady, who he thinks it's going to be like, oh, she's hot, this is perfect, oh yeah. And then she just orders him around her house, cleaning her apartment the entire time.
As it turns out, Mount Lady is probably one of the biggest targets on Stain's hit list.
Mount Lady deserves to be on Stain's hit list. She is a perfect example of all the problems he's got.
Dear.
She's a pretty selfish jerk. Like, she takes, like, all through during the student festival, they cut to her and like Kamui Woods going around because they're supposed to like
Death Arms to the other one.
Yeah, which is the guy who Jiro trains with.
Yep.
And they're supposed to be acting as security during the whole thing, and Mount Lady is just going around to the different food stalls. He was like, "Hey, can I have that?" Sure, that'll be 500 yen. I was like, "Oh, I was just wondering.
I don't have any pockets on my costume.
Oh, maybe I have one over here." It's like, "Here's free. Oh, good, thank you."
Yeah, and she leans over and pushes her tits together. Yeah.
So she's a pretty big jerk, honestly.
Oh God, yes.
Big jerk. So,
and if she's not eating, she's looking at her phone instead of doing her job. Yeah.
So there is a good point that's like, hey, there are kind of some jerks among the pro heroes, which is why Bakugo is probably going to being a pro hero, despite having, even if he doesn't end up correcting some of his personality flaws. But then we actually have Deku's master, I guess you could say.
Mentor.
It's a recommendation from All Might.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gran Torino, who is not the 2008 movie, but it's not too far off from that, actually.
No. He's an old cranky bastard.
Who moves really quickly, because that's why he's Gran Torino, is that he's basically like Speedball, I guess is a quick way of putting it.
I think his shtick is that he's got jets in his feet that lets him move really fast.
Yeah. So Gran Torino, I think, gets off on acting like a demented old man. I think it just amuses him to see people react to him when he. What was your name again?
Clearly, that's entirely yes.
But he does eventually agree to train Deku after Deku, says why he's there and who sent him, and demonstrates that he is capable of learning. Because Gran Torino gives him some hard knocks training, basically. He says, like, hey, see if you can actually land a blow on me. And eventually Deku realizes that he can use his quirk in smaller amounts. He calls it full cowling. So instead of focusing his power into a single part of his body, he kind of takes a small amount of it and spreads it out across his entire.
Yeah, the big thing is that he invokes it in his entire body, and it's only, like you said, a smaller percentage.
Which is a lesson that he learned through the power of taiyaki.
Yes.
Microwaving frozen snacks. Gran Torino's whole lesson is, so what would happen if you could only microwave that little part of that snack? Well, the rest would be frozen. It'd be awful. Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway.
No, my favorite part about that is after this whole thing is he like...
Anyway, I've got to get more taiyaki. Keep training.
Deku goes off, goes, oh my god, I've had a brilliant idea. Goes at it. Gran Torino's like, but my taiyaki's still not reheated. God damn it.
I'm a kid.
Hey, Torino does also identify another one of Deku's problems where he'll... like you present him with a problem and he stands there for like 10 seconds, like muttering and trying to work it out in his head.
Mm.
And he's gives him like a... I don't think he actually hits him, but it's just like a case. He's saying, "Hello, I'm over here." Yeah. Sometime today, kid.
Well, that Deku doing that is simultaneously a big weakness and a big strength for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
because he's capable of coming up with some truly outlandish and brilliant ideas doing that, but he kind of becomes sort of completely clueless to the world while doing it.
So while that's going on, then you have Shigaraki approaches Stain and is like, "You should join my League of Villains." And they're like, he's like, "Why should I do that? We're gonna kill All Might." Like, that's the opposite of what I want to happen. I want to kill everyone but All Might. Fuck all of you.
Well, again, Shigaraki completely misjudges Stain because he sees Stain's actions and the way he takes out other heroes. Oh, he should totally join us. It'll be awesome. And Stain's like, no, my whole shtick is I'm trying to restore purity to heroism by taking out all these profiteers and glory mongers. Why would I join people who just want to make the world worse?
Okay, can we kill All Might then? No! Everyone but All Might!
All Might's the one dude that doesn't deserve to get
But
stabbed.
All Might's the one person I definitely want to kill.
Yeah, Stain's just like, my whole shtick is I want to rid the world of people using powers for personal gain instead of actually helping the world.
But I want to use my powers for personal gain.
God damn it, Shigaraki!
Yeah, it's not heroes and villains with Stain.
So, Shigaraki basically goes into a hissy fit, as he is wont to do, because he's, 18?
Something like that, yeah.
I don't even know how old he's supposed to be.
It
He's still
doesn't matter
young,
how
though.
old he
He's
is,
immature.
He's a very immature late teenager, I think.
Yeah, he
So-
acts like he's 12 or 13. Like he's still has all that testosterone and other hormones pumping through him, and has no idea how to fucking handle it.
So Shigaraki goes to the city where Stain is operating in, and he's just like, all right, well, fucking fine. It just unleashes a bunch of Nomu. Just because he's just pissed off. He claims to have this plan for why he's doing it. It doesn't really. He's just pissed off.
Yep.
So Nomu start attacking stuff. So they do it while Deku and Gran Torino are on a train going into the city, because Gran Torino is like, "Oh, we're gonna go on patrol, and we're gonna test out how your ability works." And then a Nomu attacks the train, so Gran Torino kicks it out of the car and goes after it and is like, you just keep taking the train out! And Deku's like, I'm gonna get off here, and oh no, Ida's in trouble!
He figures out what Ida's been up to.
He's been acting really weird. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, Ida's been acting weird and sort of distant, and he took this sidekick job in this part of town which makes no sense. It's like, in the same area of town where his brother was attacked by the fuck.
Yeah.
So Ida goes after Stain and manages to find him, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately for Ida, yeah.
So
he finds Stain after Stain has actually attacked another hero.
Yeah.
And Cherokee, I think, if I remember correctly, something like that.
I thought it was native. I don't remember.
Native, that's what it was.
I think it's literally just native. Yeah,
it is.
Like a Native American for some reason.
In Japan.
Yeah. So Stain pretty much immediately dispatches him, and he's like, "Oh, come on, this is all wrong. You can't be. Look at you, like you're doing this for all the wrong reasons." Because Ida's flat out telling him, like, "You're the guy who took out my older brother. He was a wonderful hero who helped people, and I hate you. I'm going to get you." And he's like, "Look at me. You're just looking at me with hatred in your eyes. You're doing this for all the wrong reasons. So he's going to kill him, and then Deku shows up and saves him.
I think my favorite bit about that, though, is before he actually starts talking with Ida, he's like, "Oh, you're a kid. Look, dude, just."
He's gonna let him go.
He's gonna let him go until Ida opens his mouth and lets him know exactly why he's there. And then Stain's like, "Oh, okay. Well, in that case, you're not gonna let this go, okay?" Yeah.
So, Stain is willing to give him a chance to basically demonstrate that he's not that, and then Ida demonstrates that he is that. So,
yep.
So he's going to kill Ida. Deku shows up, does better than Ida did, but eventually Stain gets, I think he manages to cut him.
He nicks him just a tiny bit.
He manages to get him with his ability, and so he paralyzes him. So it looks like all three of them are fucked now. But fortunately, Deku thought ahead and used his phone to send out a quick distress signal. He didn't have time to make it very informative, but I think, just sent out the location.
The location to Todoroki.
He sent out the location to all his
everyone in the class.
Yep.
So fortunately, Endeavor was in the area with his new disciple Todoroki, who accepted it for some reason.
Todoroki specifically, basically after the loss to Bakugo, he had time to think and basically, you know what? And he went to go see his mom.
Yeah.
Right.
And he had the epiphany of, you know what? I've got to get past this thing with my dad. And I'm not going to do it the way things are now. I have to directly confront this.
So, but unfortunately, Endeavor does not really help that whole thing. Because, you finally come under my wing, Shoto and Torino.
God. Yeah, sure, Dad.
Fuck you, Dad.
Listen, you're the second best hero here. You clearly know the business. I'm just here to learn that.
So you won't going to follow my plan? No.
I'm your sidekick for the time being.
So Endeavor, of course, starts fighting Nomu when they show up, because as big of an asshole as he is actually a good hero. And he, is actually going around the city, and he's like taking charge of the fights that are happening against the Nomu. And he's like taking full command of the situation. When he's needed somewhere else, he's immediately like, "Okay, finish this guy off. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do this." And he is almost completely solely responsible for defeating all the Nomu. Gran Torino helps out. Gran Torino helps out a lot on the last one, but I think Endeavor finishes off almost all of them.
Yeah. I mean, it does a great job of just like, it sets up Endeavor as a badass, but it also gives you that sort of indication of of the level of growth that Todoroki still got.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've always had the comparison between All Might and Deku. So although Deku's really powerful, we can see that he's nowhere near that, that finishing line.
Yes.
There's also something I want to point out there. In one of the first fights with the Nomu that you see Endeavor doing, he's helping out some other pro heroes. Endeavor trades some blows to the Nomu, comes to the conclusion that the Nomu is not going to be easily taken out. Decides, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to kill this guy. I'm going to turn his head to ash. Literally does that. There is nothing. It blows away when he's done, and the body collapses. And I just murdered this guy. Cool. I'm a pro hero. I get to do that. No remorse. No second thoughts. Nothing.
I mean, Endeavor's got such control of fire that literally he wears a fire mustache. He's always on fire. So when he gets serious, he's he fully blue flamed this guy and just. Oh
yeah, but Eric's right though. There is not an ounce of remorse in the fact that he just took a life.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, he doesn't know this. The Nomu aren't really sapient anymore.
Yeah, they're not really people anymore. They've been so badly fucked up by their creator, who we'll go into later, that there's nothing left of the people who they were. It's a mercy, but he didn't know that.
No. But yeah, so Todoroki goes off to help Deku because he's like, oh, location. All right, Deku wouldn't have texted me this if this wasn't actually important. It's nearby.
Yeah,
it's really important. There's a crisis going on. He's gotten himself into some shit.
Yeah.
I should go help out my friend.
So Todoroki shows up, and he manages to hold off Stain for a little bit. And for a guy who doesn't have any combat powers beyond I cut you and then paralyze you, so he has to actually get close enough to cut you, and for him going up against a guy who is still not cool with manipulating fire, but is still Iceman. He does really well against Todoroki and would have beaten him.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, while Stain's actual superpower isn't that powerful, he's an example of just how badass you can be if you just go the Batman route.
Well, his power
Batman is willing to katana everyone.
Well, again, I will say this: Stain's power is incredibly powerful. It's just very narrow.
Yes.
But,
and he gets an unlucky. He gets unlucky because it turns out that Deku has the least compatible blood type.
Yep.
For his quirk, so Deku recovers really quickly, and then Ida recovers not too long after that. So,
one other important bit that actually comes up in this is that Deku makes it it's very clear from when Deku arrives that he's trying to save Ida and Native.
Yes.
His primary focus is getting the injured people out, and not fighting and beating Stain.
And Stain also realizes during the fight, is like, this kid is probably worthy of being a hero.
Yeah.
Because he is prioritizing all the right things and doing everything for the right reason. And he is actually like trying to talk him out of the fight for part of it.
Yep.
He's like, this is what your friend did, blah, 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 blah. And Deku just wants to save him. And fortunately, over the course of, Todoroki and Deku showing up and shouting at him for doing something so stupid, he realizes he fucked up, and they're able to pull everything together, and they're able to defeat Stain with all three of them working together. Well, and then Native is just like, "You kids are fucking stupid."
Yeah. Well, part of the thing with Ida is that it's not just like Todoroki and Deku like shouting at him. It's again their actions like, holy shit, they're there for me. They're not there for any other reason than to save me. Like because
and they're getting hurt in order to save them as well.
And Ida instantly is almost overwhelmed with the shame of his motivations.
Yep.
Well, because that's who he is deep down. I mean, the real Ida is the one who runs around waving his arms awkwardly and, but is ordering his classmates around, but is also looking out for them.
Yep.
He's very concerned with what's going on with everyone around him.
He cares about people.
He cares deeply about people, and making sure that they're doing all right. And he's fucking hilarious.
Oh, we all love Ida. I mean,
yeah, just the way he his gesticulations and every time he talks just crack me up.
He got so much. I'll say this also: the animation for Ida in season 2 on is so much better.
Yeah.
Just the very unnatural way he stands rigidly up, and then he's chopping his arms through the air, gesticulating as he talks. Yes. So they beat Stain and tie him up, and then they have pulled him out of the alleyway into the street, and then another Nomu shows up and almost takes Deku away.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Stain wakes up, gets free, cuts it, uses his powers to paralyze it, and is like, "No, you're not allowed to do that!" And then he passes out. I think that like Endeavor like shows up and blows up the last Nomu.
No, Endeavor shows up. Stain basically sticks it in its brainstem, turns on them and says, "None of you are worthy. Fuck you, fight me."
and like
then he passes out.
The sheer intensity of his sort of stance there gets Endeavor to pause.
Yes.
Endeavor's like, "Holy fuck, what is with this dude?"
It's his pressure. So,
motherfucker's crazy.
So Stain gets arrested after all of this, but Shigaraki still loses. Because all the media can talk about is like the hero killer Stain, and they caught his whole tirade on camera.
Yep.
So yeah, a whole bunch of people saw him, and they're like, "Wow, this guy's crazy." But a whole bunch of people also saw him and were like, "Oh man, this guy's right. This is what it means to be a real hero." And he inspires a whole bunch of messed up people to actually carry on his legacy.
Yep.
Which, under All for One's direction, because it turns out that that's who Shigaraki's master is, Shigaraki is able to take advantage of the situation because he actually is able to recruit a number of Stain's self-declared disciples to become part of the League of Villains. But enough about that. Final exams. This is my favorite part of this.
No, we have to talk about the final exams. Yeah, absolutely. So the final exams. Nick, go ahead, please.
Well, it's very straightforward. Each of the students is put in a 2-person team, and they are tasked with going up against one of the teachers at UA. And they can defeat them by either slapping a pair of handcuffs on them or by just escaping and getting out through an exit. And they actually do things very differently in the anime than they do in the manga. And honestly, probably in a way that makes more sense for the way that the anime is done. Which is, in the manga, everything is going concurrently. All 10 tests are happening simultaneously, and you mostly follow Deku and Bakugo, because of course they were paired together, is to test them. But you also see, Yaoyorozu and Todoroki get some focus. And then the rest are mostly just cutting around in brief snippets. In the anime, you just see them all happen one after another, which I think makes more sense because then you're able to focus on each one happening individually.
Yep.
They do, with the anime, they do spread things out a little bit. I mean, this is where the anime-only filler comes in with Sue.
Oh.
This is when it starts to really ramp up. There was an episode where Tsuyu, you see Tsuyu's hero training, and it is probably my least favorite episode of the entire.
But it is directly at it's right after that whole bit with Stain, so it's a blow-off episode, which the show kind of needed at that point. It got really dark and heavy, and it needed a bit of a reset to go into what's going on.
Yeah, the only problem with the major problem with it is Sue's sort of acting a little un-Sue-like.
Yeah,
just completely did not understand her character, honestly. Like, because the entire thing that's happening in that is that no one will let me do anything. Oh, but how am I supposed to be a hero if no one let me do anything? It's like, that's not Tsuyu. Tsuyu is the one who is just calm and collected in bizarre situations. She kept her cool when, like, a class was invaded by villains and basically took charge of her group with Mineta and Deku. It's the fact that she's like, what am I supposed to do now? Is like, come on. And someone like tried to justify it to me on Twitter when it happened. It was like, well, I know people like that they're confident most of the time, and then something doesn't happen, and suddenly they don't know what to do. And I was like, well, yeah, but that's not why people like Tsuyu. So like, why would you do that?
I mean, I could understand the bit where she's out in the big world now with the pro heroes, and she might be confident at her own level. But this is a big step up, and she might be, she understands she's the rookie in the situation. She's there to learn, therefore she shouldn't really take the lead and try and do things if she's doing it wrong. I kind of get that, but yeah, she was a little bit out of the character for that one.
The only thing that I really felt was in character for Sue was like finding Selkie's ridiculous antics to be adorable.
I did
the only one that did.
I did like that, even though I hate the fuck out of Selkie. Hey, I know, guys. Let's just take Gang Orca and give him Gunhead's personality. That'll click.
Also, we get a little scene at the end where, even though Deku, Todoroki, and Ida, kind of instrumental in bringing down Stain, they were still students, so they weren't actually licensed to do any of that shit. So they get told off by McGruff the crime dog.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a very good inclusion. Yeah.
I find that actually really offensive, honestly. That they, I really do. Not that there's McGruff crime dog, but like the whole deal that they work out. It's like these guys just took out someone that you've been chasing forever, so you're going to claim the fucking credit and tell these guys to never speak of it again. Fuck you, McGruff. These guys deserve everything that's coming to them, and you just totally cockblock them. Fuck you, dog boy.
Well, but he's doing it so that they don't have to have it on their permanent record.
They did kind of break the law.
He's doing it in order to
permanent record and fuck breaking the law. Sometimes you got to do what's right, regardless of whether or not it's legal. And they did what was fucking right and should be praised for it. Fuck you, McGruff.
But that's the thing, is that Stain wanted to do what in the long run he thought was right, but by acting outside the law and stuff like that. Like his whole point it's interesting because like you see like, oh, the whole hero system is broken, and then you see a way in which it kind of is, but if that policy were not in place, then you would have vigilantes, which is definitely not a spin-off manga that this manga has. The entire purpose of the whole hero society is basically, you know, putting a whole set of checks and balances on heroes to make sure that they are actually qualified to do what they're doing and to actually have them have to answer for stuff. And we see that happen all the time, is that people are held liable for their failings in this series, and they have to either deal with the press or they have to deal with, you know, the law coming down on them. And so if they didn't do it in this case, in a situation where it's like, yeah, you could just let the kids off, it's like, well, we can't have them take credit for this without people also knowing that they broke the law by doing this.
The only thing I would say that they never really
here is that they were acting to save they're acting to save other people, and no one died or
this is the thing that bugs me.
Was absolutely necessary to save those people.
This is the only thing about this whole universe that bugs me. Supposedly, like 90% of the population have quirks.
80%,
so
yes.
What happens then when a general person of the public uses their quirk to defend themselves? What happens when a police officer, which we know exists, they're right there, dealing with a criminal?
Yeah.
What's the difference between a police officer dealing with a criminal using his quirk and a hero?
You clearly don't live in America.
But, yeah.
The thing is, most of the cops we've seen don't. If they have quirks, their quirks are not combat related.
Yeah. Other animals.
Yeah, well,
or they're a cat.
It's like you know, with Inko. Like, her quirk is that she can pull small objects towards herself. So even if you have a quirk, it might not be a very powerful quirk.
I mean, I can imagine that. Yeah, obviously the most powerful quirks eventually get drafted into the hero.
Yep, that's what it is. Is the people in the police department are the ones who don't have combat quirks. Like, some of them might have powerful, like, you know, intelligence-based quirks, but, you know, they're not, you know. This is all extrapolation, obviously. We don't. They've never said this outright, but that's sort of the implication I always got.
Yeah. So then you have the final exams for the semester. So I think that the first one we see is Kirishima and Sato getting their shit pushed in. Yeah, I think that's the first one we see at all. Because they go up against Cementos and they're just like, let's just smash our way through. And he's just like, I'll just keep on summoning cement for you guys to.
Yeah, you clearly don't understand.
I know you guys like burn out quick, so I'm just gonna play one game.
And that's one of the parts of the exam that is actually a lot more satisfying in the manga, because you see like time expire on them and Ashido and Kaminari. I think it's Kaminari. So when it happens with Sato and Kirishima, you know, they've just been, you know, getting completely buried under barrier after barrier after barrier, and they're just not able to make any progress. And then they just, you know, realize that they failed, and they just look at each other and they're, oh, and they just have to deal with that. They just completely and utterly failed, as opposed to in the anime version, they get buried under cement and are knocked out. It's like, and they failed. Bye. You've got the most gift moment of Principal Nezu.
I love that so much.
He's like, no, my quirk isn't that I'm a human with the powers of whatever species he is. He's, no, I was just a regular old ferret or whatever he is, but I was given super intelligence. Oh, you're the other way around. Oh, so your quirk isn't actually that you're an animal. Oh.
So
he is a super genius.
Get out anytime.
He's like, I left you a glaringly wide opening right there, but you didn't take it. Oh well.
Humans run. He's Principal Nezu.
He is
the
not
genius and possibly insane.
He's Wile E. Coyote. Except on the side of the good guys. And not, tormented by the Roadrunner.
And also
or bugs.
Seem to work.
Wait, he's not buying from Acme.
Yeah, you see, he's ordering from Amazon.
I mean, again, he doesn't have to deal with the Roadrunner or Bugs Bunny. I mean...
Then there is Team Sticky Sticky. It's, Mineta and Sero, and they go up against Midnight. And Midnight basically immediately takes out Sero with her pheromones.
Soporific musk.
Yeah. So Mineta is just running away from her with his hands over his mouth until eventually she chases after him. And he's like, aha, it's time for my plan to go into effect. And he throws a bunch of his sticky grapes at her and sticks her to the ground just long enough for him to just drag Sero out through the gate and actually pass the test. And that's the only test that they have where only one participant passes.
Yeah.
It's either been 2 succeed or 2 fail for the others. Because Sero did nothing.
Not a damn thing.
Let's see.
I know Sue and Tsukuyomi.
Tokoyami,
sorry, yeah. They're paired up against
Ectoplasm.
Yeah. That one's great because
That's
that's
great.
because
Turns out that Sue's got other powers.
well, she can do everything a frog can.
Yeah.
As the series goes on, you basically find out that Suyu has actually probably the most variations of her power. Like, a lot of people use their powers in very creative ways, especially Tokoyami recently has used his Dark Shadow in a lot of different ways, but it always takes the form of Dark Shadow. Suyu just does a lot of different frog things.
Yep.
Yeah, like all of frogs. It's like there's one bit where, like in season 3, she just appears on a wall because she can turn invisible now as well.
She can camouflage. Yeah.
Because you can camoufage, yeah. And,
So
and
in
what
this
I like
one-
about that fight is it's basically like Sue basically instantly realizes, okay, these are Tokoyami's weaknesses. I will cover those.
Yeah. But
Because Tokoyami has vastly more raw power than I do.
Right.
But he's limited.
I'll cover his weaknesses, and we'll get out of this.
And that's one of the ones where you start to see where the students were definitely paired up in terms of their personality as well.
Yes.
Yep.
Because Tokoyami and Suyu have these different weaknesses and different strengths, and Suyu is one who always keeps her cool in a situation. Filler. Tokoyami, if he's pressed, and this is what happened to him in the school festival, he was basically one of the most dominant, powerful people, just kind of quietly dark horsing his way through the ranks. He completely overwhelmed Yaoyorozu when they fought, and then he goes up against Bakugo in the semifinals, and Bakugo just destroys him because he realizes that his Dark Shadow is weak to light, so he just basically keeps a firework going off in his hand in order to hold him down, and Tokoyami can't do anything against him because of that. So Suyu realizes that, and together they're able to work out. Suyu launches a plan where she swallows their handcuffs and then vomits them out into Dark Shadow's grasp, while Ectoplasm has them held down, and Dark Shadow is able to launch itself out at Ectoplasm and snap the handcuffs on him while they're actually incapacitated.
Yep.
There's a line in the There's a line in the first season that always stuck with me because that's Sue was like, "Yeah, I can do pretty much anything a frog can, swim
That's
really fast,
basically-
extend my tongue, spit out my stomach." Like,
Yeah.
So she's able to do a lot of different things, and that's kind of a very much if I feel like doing anything frog related, then she can do anything a frog can do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, she's,
gosh.
Basically Spider-Man except a frog.
Yeah. She even she starts using her tongue like a weapon to either grab, hit, pull, whatever.
Oh gosh.
She's a big giant toolbox, is what
She
it
is, but she doesn't have as much raw power as a lot of the other people. But she just does a lot of stuff, and she's smart and doesn't panic.
I think it's Ida and Ojiro were paired up.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yep.
They make it through the exit. They do. You see almost none of their actual test. Then there's Yaoyorozu and Todoroki is a really big one.
That's huge.
Because they go up against Aizawa, and this is like Yaoyorozu's time to shine, because she is basically like half of Bakugo at this point. She has that tremendous inferiority complex despite having probably the best quirk of anyone in the class, and also being the smartest person.
Pretty glaring defeats.
She has this, she's basically thinks she's got everything figured out at the start of the series, and then all of a sudden she just fails when she goes up against Tokoyami. She does not have a chance to. She doesn't even get a chance to show what she can do.
Yeah, anytime she finds herself in a combat situation, she's like, "Well, I can produce things and distribute them to my allies," but she basically loses any confidence in herself.
Well, the thing is, she's brilliant and she thinks of plans and strategies, but she starts thinking, okay, what am I going to do here? And oh God, Tokiyami's kicking my ass.
Yeah.
I don't have time to think. Oh God.
She only has time to react when it's happening.
That's the thing. Her confidence is absolutely shattered going into this.
Yep.
So she's paired up with Todoroki, and Todoroki is taking charge of the situation at first, and she's just kind of following along with him because she's trying to think of a plan. And then he's like, "All right, follow me," and just takes charge of the situation. Then they go, and Aizawa shows up and starts kicking their asses. And eventually, Yaoyorozu realizes that she actually has to be more proactive in this. And a big part of it is that Todoroki, while he is strung up and is helpless, and Aizawa is basically using him as bait to lure Yaoyorozu out of hiding, he shouts out to her, "It's like, hey, do you remember when we were holding that vote to determine the class president? Do you remember that you had 2 votes? I was the other person who voted for you because I believe in your ability to be a leader and do this. I think that you're actually great." And she gets some self-confidence back and comes up with this brilliantly creative idea on how they can beat Aizawa. And she does most of the work.
I remember watching this, and Todoroki's whole plan is, okay, just keep producing small, easy-to-produce things, and once you can't do that anymore, we'll know he's nearby and we need to be on guard. She's like, okay, and she starts producing Russian nesting dolls. I remember thinking, those aren't fucking flashbangs inside. I'm going to be pissed.
And they were flashbangs. So she uses flashbangs, and of course Aizawa has to fucking shut his eyes, and he breaks eye contact and can't disable anyone's quirk. And then they use this ridiculous, like, "I happen to know of this one ally that when heated springs us to our original position." Todoroki's like, "Okay, I'll fire it then. Yes, do that. Okay." And they manage to tie up Aizawa with it.
It's like, okay, yes, your scientific knowledge is incredibly useful. Thank you. Oh, thank God I'm paired with a genius.
So Todoroki's team wins because of not Todoroki, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's also like there's the other thing in there. If I remember correctly, he's not just doesn't tell her that he. If I remember correctly, it's not just that he tells her that he voted for her. Is that early on she like starts bringing up she might have an idea, and Todoroki is just sort of going ahead. Yeah, and he brings up the points like there was something that you wanted to say. What was it? And she's like, starts telling me. That's what she's like. Well, I don't know. It probably wasn't very useful. He's like, no, seriously, what was it?
Obviously, my plan didn't work because I'm upside down right now.
And I believe in you because you're fucking brilliant.
So that's one of the longest fights that you get, and one of the most involved ones.
Yep.
Then there's there's Uraraka and Aoyama, who win by luck, basically.
Yes.
They're up against 13, who's just like, "I'm going to use my black hole on you." And so they're gripping onto a rail, trying not to get sucked away. And all of a sudden, Aoyama's just like, "Hey, Uraraka, you like Deku, don't you?" And she's like, "Ah!" And just like claps her hands to her cheeks and goes flying through the air as she gets back here towards 13. And 13's like, shit, if I don't stop my power, I'm going to kill her. So he stops it, and Uraraka lands on her and puts her in a judo hold. So they only barely pass.
I mean, credit to Uraraka for, instinctively basically going, yeah, I know martial arts.
Yep. Oh, wait, this is a terrible idea. Oh, wait. Oh, right. I should grab her.
Well, I'm not dead. So...
Who else? Shoji and Hagakure managed to beat the fucking outlaw-looking guy, the gunslinger guy. I forget his name. It's
the one that showed up in One Punch Man.
So they managed to take him by surprise and handcuff him. I think that they literally just like Hagakure like manages to just sneak up invisible and gotcha.
Yeah.
And then there's Jiro and Koda. Now I should say while we're going into this, Jiro's my favorite character.
She's great. I really like Jiro a lot.
Pretty cool.
She never gets to do anything. In fact, in season 4, you'll think she's going to get to do something. She kind of does, but she doesn't get to do anything. And so she's paired up with Koda, and they're going against Present Mike. So Jiro's got her heartbeat ability with her earphone jack. Koda's got his ability to talk to animals. And Present Mike's just shouting at them from across the entire battlefield. And he's completely overriding both of their abilities. Because animals can't hear what Koda's doing, and Jiro's can't get close enough, and also her fucking ears are bleeding while they're fighting.
Yeah.
So Jiro manages to think up a plan, and so she breaks a rock, and there's a bunch of ants crawling under it, and Koda's scared of fucking bugs despite talking to animals, and so he's like, ah! And Jiro is just like, listen, look, we can still do this, but you need to use your quirk to do this. My quirk is completely worthless right now. You have to be the one to do this. You need to use these ants, and maybe they can get through the ground where President Mike's sound can't affect them, and they'll stop him. And then they ruin this moment. So, to this point in the series, Koda has not talked.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now, in the manga, what happens is Koda looks at Jiro, and she's hurt, and her ears are bleeding, but she's determined and is pressing forward, and he just silently realizes, I have to do this, because she's not giving up, and she's so much worse off than I am. And so he commands the ants, and it turns out he's got this comedically high, squeaky voice, despite the fact that he's one of the biggest guys in their class, and he looks like a mountain. And so she's like, what? You have this weird voice. In the anime, she does this, and he's like, he just thinks to himself, and you hear his narration, Jiro-san is so brave, and he has a flashback to his mom. I'm so proud of you, Koda. Thanks, Mom! And then he starts talking, and she's like, you talk that way? He's like, well, yes, I just spent the last 2 minutes listening to him talk, so yes, he talks that way.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where sometimes less is more. Yep. And the anime's penchant for adding filler, more times than not, in my opinion, seems to take away from the characters than it does add to them. Sometimes when they add a moment to an episode to prolong it a little bit, it's good, but a lot of times you can feel that it's just padding, and when they just get to the point where they just make an entire episode of whole cloth is when the series seems to be at its weakest.
I would agree with that, at least with the whole episode thing. I mean, I haven't read the manga, but you can tell. You can tell.
The best filler episode that they had was the one where in season 3 where they have the murder mystery test.
Yes.
That was the one where they seemed to actually understand the characters. And also it was a very good bottle episode because we don't even have to just fucking animate them fighting for most of it. We'll just have them stand around and talk. Animation budget saver. And I think that's all of them except for Bakugo and Deku, who have to fight All Might.
Yes.
Gee, that's fair.
Mm.
And it's a good fight.
Oh, it is.
It is.
And eventually they kind of, for Bakugo, begrudgingly work together.
Yeah.
Because Bakugo just wants to fight All Might. Because he's like, I'm going to prove I'm the best, and I'll do it by beating All Might. And Deku's like, we can't win. And Bakugo's like, fuck you, don't tell me what I can and can't do. And Deku's like, we should run away. And Bakugo's like, that's the coward's way, I'm going to beat him. But it's not like just one of them can escape. Both of them have to escape in order for them to actually win.
Right.
So eventually they settle on, we'll run while fighting. And they do manage to pass the test, despite themselves, and despite almost getting into a fight in the middle of the test where they're supposed to be fighting against All Might.
Yep.
And All Might has this great moment early on in it where they're bickering over what they should do. And All Might's like, well, I'm not going to just stand back and let you decide on this. Our villain is here! He loves being a bad guy basically as much as Ida does in the first season. Try and defeat me, heroes.
Supervillain Ida was one of the funniest things ever.
Yes.
I must embody the concept of villainy. And that's season 2, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
So season 3.
Shigaraki grabs Deku by the throat and threatens to disintegrate him, and is like, "I'm gonna go and be awesome somewhere now." And that's basically it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the people who have passed their tests get to do intense hero training. Well, actually, all of them do. They get to do intense hero training with this all-girls group called the Wild Wild Pussycats, who are basically idol themed. I guess is the easiest way to put it. I should say actually that they're all girls except for Tiger, who is actually canonically trans male, which is
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Huh.
It was surprising when I learned that, because I just I thought at the beginning, was like, well, I guess he's just a guy who hangs out with them, and But it turns out was like a comment that Horikoshi made in one of the volumes, with just like used to be a girl until he had an operation done in Thailand.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Cool.
so trans representation. So
I didn't know that. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, Tiger's cool, so
Yes.
whatever.
So these girls start training the kids in order to increase their quirk capability. The people who didn't pass the semester final exam have to do supplemental lessons with Aizawa.
That's Owen Vlad, if I remember correctly.
We have Vlad King. Because Class 1B is also on this training with them. So when Omashesman is like, "Oh, some of you didn't pass," and I think that he's like the one who didn't pass.
Yeah.
Because of
He's
course
acting
he
all
is.
arrogant and holier than thou when he's just like that.
Because of course he is.
So this is another one of the moments where they extend a scene a little bit, because when they're in the very opening part of their training, they have to make their way through the woods in order to actually get to the site of their training facility. So they fight some of these rock monsters that one of the Pussycats has summoned, and each of the kids does something. But the writers of this were just like, okay, so we can have Uraraka, float one of them in the air and drop them. Okay, and Sero can tie them up, and Kaminari will try and electrocute them. And Yayorozu can summon a fucking cannon. Wait a minute. What the fuck's Hagakure gonna do? And so they're like, okay, so Hagakure, the invisible girl, will run around in front of one of them going, "Hey, look at me!"
Yeah.
It's one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. I'm the stealth hero, look at me!
And to be fair, I will say her power set does not really lend her to being able to fight these things. However, what her plan should have been at that point is, I'm going to take my gloves and boots off, and I'm just going to go all the way to the camp. Because the rules never said anything about us having to fight them. We just had to get to camp.
You imagine just like, fucking... Like, it looks like none of the kids are here, and whoever is like, "What are you talking about, Teach? I've been here for 30 minutes. Feed me! I'm hungry and naked!"
Yeah, you're still like, she's like, by the way, yeah, Kaminari, hold these. What? But what? Zoof.
I guess that's not her personality.
It's not. It's not at all her personality, but...
It was directly shown in the previous one that when they were in the fight against Outlaw, I think might be his name.
It's something like that.
She tells Shoji, "Please don't look at me when I'm getting undressed." And he's just like, "But you're always naked." So they start doing intense quirk training at that point. And then, in the middle of the night, the League of Villains attacks. Because they want to kidnap Bakugo because they think that they can turn him into the villains. So, you get a bunch of fights at this point. Deku kind of goes fucking nuts. There's a guy who has killed the parents of one of the Pussycat's nephews. His name is Koda. And he hates heroes because his parents were heroes and they died. So he's very
also the only
died, and then everyone is constantly saying they had good deaths. They died doing the right thing.
You should be proud of how they sacrificed themselves, basically. And he thinks that that's bullshit.
Yeah.
So,
he's the only one who's managed to punch Deku in the dick multiple times and get away with it too.
Yeah. He hates heroes and expresses this by when Deku goes up to him all excited and friendly, he's like, "Fuck you!" Punches him in the balls because he wants to be a hero. So Koda is isolated on a mountain where he goes away to just have privacy and just be alone and have 6-year-old angst. And Deku, when the villains attack, realizes that Koda's off by himself and he goes to find him and so he can protect him. And sure enough, the villain who killed Koda's parents shows up, and he's this giant muscle guy whose villain name, in fact, is Muscular. And he isn't just like super strong. He can like manipulate his muscles to make them stronger and grow them out of his body. And he's very gross.
They like
actually
pop out of his skin, and it's like all muscle tissue and sinew lashing around everywhere in a really cool way.
They do a good job with him in the anime because he was actually very boring in the manga, and they actually made him okay in the anime.
Okay.
And Deku basically beats him by unleashing 110% of his powers, essentially. He goes beyond what he thinks his limits are at that point.
Yeah.
Because he's been holding back because he's scared of injuring himself this whole time. And he's able to push past that limit and defeat him. And then keeps running around the camp trying to save more people because he's Deku. And
because he's Deku.
Want to save
even though he's like got like a black eye, both his arms are completely cooked. Like he
intentionally did not use his legs so that he could run around doing stuff.
Right.
While he's running on adrenaline.
His his plan originally when fighting Muscular was, okay, I'll beat him back and I need to save my legs. So once I've knocked him away, Koda, grab onto my back so that I can carry you out of here. Yeah. And then he wasn't able to put Muscular down and he had to just beat him. Which he does. When it looks like he's going to be crushed to death. And he just defies all laws of physics by completely obliterating the leverage advantage and just knocking him into the mountain.
Yeah.
Anyways.
It's actually a really well animated, really interesting fight because, again, fight is a conversation, except the conversation is between Deku and Muscular. It's between Deku and Koda.
Mm-hmm.
Because Koda just, why aren't you just leaving? Why are you fighting to save me?
Because this is what it means to be a hero!
Yes.
And this is one of the parts of the series where you get to actually really see some of the other people in Class 1A shine. Because, for example, Shoji becomes like a really important character for this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He and Tokoyami, the way that they excuse it is they were having a test of courage thing where Class 1B was set up to do a bunch of different scares throughout the woods, and Class 1A was separated to two-person groups in order to go through it. So they have, the typical thing of like, Uraraku and Deku, are they going to end up together going through it? No. I think he's paired up with...
He's not paired up with anyone.
He's like, he ends up paired with one of the teachers, I think.
Basically, they look around, it's like, yeah, we've got 20 people in the class, and 5 of us are in detention.
Right.
Doing extra studies.
Supplemental lessons.
Mm-hmm. He's like, okay, and that leaves me with nobody. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's when the League of Villains attack.
Yep.
So they're scattered throughout the woods when this is happening. So almost everyone in Class 1B is basically taken out pretty much immediately. Because they don't start off in the central hub. They are, they're already scattered around the place, and that's why they get taken out. Mostly knocked out by the one mustard gas tornado guy.
Yeah.
There's one guy who has an attachment quirk. His quirk is he can stick things to other things. And so from that, Yaoyorozu makes a tracking device and sticks it onto a Nomu, so that they can track it as...
Yaoyorozu does a couple of really good things in this. I mean, she makes gas masks for everybody.
Gas masks.
Yeah, she makes gas masks for everybody.
That's why Tetsu gets another moment to shine, because he and Kendo will go after the guy releasing the mustard gas. And I do love because like they come up on him with gas masks, and he's like, "Oh, okay, well, that's why I've got this," and he just shoots Tetsu in the fucking head with a gun.
Yeah.
And he breaks the gas mask. He's like, "Oh, you're made of metal. Well, all right then.
I'll just keep shooting you. Bang, 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 bang. Well, I've got a bunch more bullets in case. Oh shit, I'm being hit."
Kendo starts like goes big hands, start waving the gas away, and he's like, "Oh wait, what?"
Hey, stop that! And then Tetsu punches him. No!
Oh, my face! Oh, you've hit me my hubris.
Fucking Vince.
What I think about is interesting about that fact is he goes, just because you brought a gun because you didn't believe in the power of your quirk.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, okay, I understand where you're coming from here, dude, but he sees a big obvious weakness with his quirk and then takes measurements to shore that up with readily available tech. Like,
but that's also how Tetsu thinks. So
this is also true.
Tetsu, to spoil a little bit, in the latest arc of the manga, it's Class 1A versus Class 1B, and they're basically doing the same thing that they did in a way in the semester final exams. So it's a capture objective, and so 2 matches have gone on by the time Tetsu goes out, and there have been all these variations and clever tactics used and misdirection and strategizing. And so Tetsu is like, all right, so they're probably going to be coming towards us, so here's what we're going to do. And he just starts wrecking everything around himself. He's like, we're going to do this head-to-head, and just completely bulldozes over everything. He's like, fuck this, fuck thinking you're just going to have a direct head-to-head battle. That's just the way he thinks. So he's an incredibly exaggerated version of Kirishima, basically.
He is less subtle than Kirishima.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm saying something.
Yes.
Kirishima gets like self-reflection and pathos out of this arc. Tetsu gets to punch a guy in the face. Then there's fucking Moonfish, the freaking criminal insane asylum escapee who grows fucking massive teeth.
It's not even that. Like he could direct like where they grow, how sharp, and how hard they are.
Yeah.
So he's basically and does this on the fly. So he's basically walking on spider legs out of his mouth.
Yeah, it's creepy.
It's fucking cool.
Also, he's done up like he basically is done up like the Gimp, because he's like this leather-bound mummy.
He looks like he's escaped from Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Yes. Like he's in a Gimp suit, all bound up. He's got the Gimp mask with the zipper undone around the mouth so he could use his quirk. And he's talking about how he wants to eat people.
Yeah. So he injures Shoji, who fortunately had grown out of his tentacles, so it was just a thing that he can grow back. It's okay. That arm will grow back. And Tokoyami sees this and gets really fucking mad, so he loses control of Dark Shadow because it's night when Dark Shadow's at its strongest. And so Tokoyami becomes far more dangerous than Moonfish all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how if I remember correctly in the anime at least, Deku actually comes to play. Okay, Tokoyami's going wild over here. We're just gonna lure him, like direct him because he's going crazy this way towards Moonfish.
And then we'll keep on going. Hey, Todoroki or Bakugo, one of you please use your light.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not even this is the scary thing. When Todoroki when Tokoyami gets to Moonfish, it's not even a fight.
Yeah.
Moonfish is like, I'll eat you, and then Tokoyami basically beats him without even taking notice of him almost.
It's like, oh dear.
Bats him out of the air, his teeth go flying everywhere.
Again, it's another those little indications just how powerful these kids could end up being, because up until that point, no one had an answer for what Moonfish was doing. Like he had them all on the ropes. Everyone there.
Bakugo had an answer, which was blow the fuck out of him. Except they're in the middle of some very dry woods that are already starting to burn.
Part of which are already on fire because of Dabi, one of the villains. Yeah.
And it's just going to make things worse if they start blowing shit up.
So they realize at this point because Muscular, while he was being a giant talky braggart asshole, dropped the hint that they were going after Bakugo. And so Deku is warned everyone about this, or rather, he specifically says they're after Kachan, and so I think it's Mandalay is the one who could communicate with everybody.
It's Mandalay.
Yeah.
So she, and also to the person called Kachan, yeah, you have to like not go anywhere and stay safe. And Bakugo's like, what the fuck?
God damn it, Deku!
So a bunch of people have converged by this point. Like Tokoyami and Todoroki and Shoji and Deku are all there with Bakugo, and they're like, we're going to protect Bakugo. And Bakugo's like, I don't need any of your help. I'm gonna blow all them up.
But you'll set fire to the woods.
Yeah. But he ends up getting kidnapped because the villains just basically outsmart them.
Yep.
There's a guy named Mr. Compress who can just shrink anything that he touches down into a tiny, basically a gumball. And so he does that. He sneak attacks them and grabs Bakugo and Tokoyami that way. And so they think that they're going to get away like that. So they meet up with Kurogiri and Dabi, and they're going to escape. They're going through the portal, and the heroes manage to launch this one final last ditch effort. I forget who does it. Oh, it's Aoyama. Aoyama's like been hiding, crouched in the bushes this entire time while all this stuff is going on, and he realizes he has to do something, so he just naval lasers Mr. Compress's hand, knocks the marbles out of it, and so immediately Shoji and Deku and Todoroki all lunge forward to try and grab them, and they manage to grab Tokoyami. They don't grab Bakugo because Mr. Compress was just like, you ever play the shell game? Yeah, that one wasn't one of the two. And he takes off his mask to show that he actually held the really important one in his mouth. He's like, oh, you asshole.
Yeah.
So
one other little minor bit is when Toga's fucking around with
Uraraka and
Tsuyu, yeah.
And she basically says, like, you've got a crush on someone, don't you, Ochako? Who is it? I bet you're just like me. You want to be just like them. You want to like get inside of them and wear their skin. Well, I don't think she goes that far, but she's very on the money with, like, you admire that person so much you want to be just like them. And Uraraka gets freaked out by this and hesitates, and Toga's able to stab her, take a little bit of her blood, and then gets away like that.
She also nicks Sue on the tongue, if I remember correctly, which ends up being a minor problem.
Yes.
He's like, okay, we got a plan to do stuff, and oh crap, Sue's tongue is actually hurt. Fuck!
Yeah. Can't really use that effectively anymore, and that's a lot of her main direct combat ability. So the villains get away with Bakugo, and Deku is like, my arms. If only I could have actually saved my arms, I might have been able to grab the marbles. He's beating himself up a little bit too much.
He is.
Yeah.
But given all things considered, you can kind of understand why he is. I mean,
yeah, he still considers him his childhood friend, has just been taken away, and it happened right in front of him.
Yep.
So, Kirishima comes up to, and Todoroki come up to Deku, and they're like, "Hey, so we got this thing from Yaoyorozu. She, gave a tracking device to All Might so that they could track these guys down." But she also kept a tracking device for herself. So we're going to go and try and save Bakugo. And Kirishima gets a big moment of character growth because he's like, I couldn't be of any help to anyone because I was stuck, taking supplementary lessons because I didn't do well before this. So I couldn't help you guys out when you were in this situation. And so my friend got taken away. So he wants to go and fucking save him. So Ida's like, all right, I'm going to babysit you guys, and if you guys start to get into any trouble, then I'm going to pull us out of this, because you guys did the same for me, and I'm not going to let you guys repeat my mistake. Yeah. So they decide to go undercover.
Yeah. I also love the fact it's like he basically says, okay, I'm going to go with you guys, and I'll babysit you guys, but if it looks like we're not going to fight, no fighting, because we're going to get into serious fucking trouble if we do.
It will upset McGruff.
Also, we'll probably die.
Yes.
I mean, more to the point, we'll probably die. But, like, McGruff is not the guy I'm worried about. Fuck McGruff.
But again, he's definitely stating it's because it's against the rules. But there's definitely an element of, I don't want my friends to die.
Yes.
So Meanwhile, in addition to Bakugo, one of the Pussycats has also been kidnapped. So they're going after both of them. So the villains pretty quickly get tracked down, honestly.
I do love the scene where they're trying to convince Bakugo to join them.
Yes.
Yeah. Come on, be Sasuke, join us! Fuck you, I want to be Naruto.
Yes.
Well,
I wish that was my line.
People pointed out after that episode aired where he says, like, hell no, I'm going to be like All Might. I'm going to be just like him. And he gives them his typical evil smirk. And people are like, oh, that entire time he wasn't smirking evilly. He was trying to give that big, confident grin that All Might does. He just looks like a complete asshole when he does it.
Yeah.
That was the moment when I realized, oh, wow, you're a lot deeper than I thought.
Yep.
So we get the explanation that the reason that Bakugo wants to be the next top hero is because he wants to be all like All Might, the guy who always won and always came out on top no matter how ridiculous the odds were stacked against him. And so he has been untied at this point, and he's basically planning on fighting all of the League of Villains on his own. And he knows, like, this is gonna suck, but I think I can do it. Fortunately, at that point, there's a knock on the door, and there's like, and so fucking All Might goes, pizza delivery, and breaks the door down.
And the surgical strike the heroes pull off in this scene is phenomenal.
They take out Kurogiri immediately so he can't teleport them away. And then Kamui Woods basically disables everyone else by growing a bunch of woods to grab all of them. And Shigaraki gets really fucking pissed off. He's like, I fucking hate you guys. But then this weird black gunk starts coming out of their mouths. And they're like, Kamui Woods, what the hell? I thought you were or it was Edgeshot. This guy who can like fold himself into paper. He's like, I'm inside of Kurogiri's body, so he can't activate his quirk because I can do that. So they're like, what are you doing? He's like, I've disabled his ability. This isn't him. And it turns out that fucking All For One has shown up. The main villain, Shigaraki's master, the guy who basically created One For All. I think that's established at the end of season 1.
It was, yes. At the end of season, it was established in season 2.
So he shows up and starts fucking everything up, and he basically says like, yeah, so I used my power to fucking steal Ragdoll, the Pussycat's quirk, because she had a really interesting tracking ability. Also, I took out everyone who was at the Nomo facility. Yeah, Best Genius was there, fucked his shit up too. Yeah, so let's throw down All Might. Leave my students alone. And the League of Villains all escape. Shigaraki basically, you see just how much he is actually like Deku because he doesn't want to stay behind. He doesn't want to be sent away. He wants to help his master, who he knows is probably going to lose, actually.
Yeah. Or he thinks that he thinks that he could lose, is what it boils down to.
He thinks that he could help, but all the other League of Villains.
I mean, this is all going on while like that bit happens after like they're trying to basically catch Bakugo so they can take him out with them.
Right. They're trying to capture Bakugo, and Bakugo is actually fending all of them off. He can't beat them, but he's holding his own. And so what eventually happens is Deku and Ida and everyone come up with this plan. Well, Deku comes up with the plan. And they manage to use a combination of Deku's and Ida's quirks to launch themselves up a ramp that Todoroki has made. And they are carrying Kirishima. And Kirishima calls out to Bakugo. It's like, hey, get the hell over here. So Bakugo is able to fire himself up into the air and grab onto him. And Bakugo's like, fuck you guys. Thank you. Fuck you.
because Deku realizes that there's zero chance Bakugo would accept his help.
Not accept his help. Yeah.
No.
But that's the thing. Like Deku immediately goes, okay, he's not going to accept any one of us. Kirishima, this is where you're really fucking important because he actually likes you and you're actually his friend.
Yeah. So they get away, and All Might's finally able to cut loose at that point and start really. I think that he actually starts fucking up the League of Villains at that point for a little bit, and that's why All For One realizes that he needs to send them away. So he has Kurogiri, I think, do that.
He forcibly activates Kurogiri's portal
Right.
And then
he can do
uses
that. He can forcibly activate other people's quirks.
and then he activates the Magnet Dude's quirk to attract most of the team into Toga, sending them all through the portal.
Right. And he sends all of them away.
The other pro heroes that were at the bar show up.
Right.
Like,
so
other pro heroes show up, and he's like, "Okay, I'm new. Me and All Might are taking each other out of play. These guys are good, but not as good as these heroes, so they need to go. Also, Endeavor's here. That's a problem."
Yeah. I mean, Endeavor shows up, Kamui Woods shows up, I think
Gran Torino shows up.
Torino's there, and there's a scene where like they make one desperate grab to stop Bakugo escaping, and Mount Lady just walks into it and takes it in the face.
Yeah, they launch the Magnet Dude up after them, and she just takes it in the funk. Ow, thud. I'll become giant and smack in the face. Ow.
Oh.
So that's when All for One and All Might have their last battle. They've clearly fought each other a whole bunch of times by this point, and All for One has just continued to gather quirks. And meanwhile, All Might has been slowly decaying in strength because of his injury. And All for One has realized this by this point. He just didn't realize until now just how much strength he had actually lost.
Yeah.
Because All Might basically is just to the point where he can't maintain his muscle form anymore. And it's slowly losing it while they fight.
Well, I think All for One basically describes it. He's like, the inferno that was one for all has been passed on to another, and now you're clutching onto the dying embers.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is where he realizes, oh, you actually have passed it on.
Yeah.
Oh, it's that Deku kid, isn't it?
Ah, I see. Well, then this is where you have failed as a teacher, because I have completely entrusted myself over to young Shigaraki, who, by the way, is the previous One for All holder's grandson. So fuck you, All Might. He hates you. Your own mentor's grandson hates you.
Blah blah blah.
And All Might almost loses all hope at that point, basically.
Yeah, and All for One's doing a great job of like needling him and getting under his skin, and including like teleporting other heroes to take All Might's punches, because
he does. He teleports Gran Torino in front of it in the way of one of All Might's punches.
Yes, because he thinks it's hilarious.
Well, also he doesn't want to get punched by All Might. Let's be real.
Yeah, let's be fair.
Also, I really did not like All for One's English voice at the start. It eventually grew on.
I've heard both now. I actually have heard some. Yeah. I understand why you didn't like it as much. The Japanese voice actor's really good and is fucking creepy.
And I think that it was also just kind of like tossing him in the deep end, because he has very few lines before the big battle where he has to do a bunch of monologuing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So. And you can tell, like, in later appearances that he was a lot more confident and more comfortable. He sounded a lot more natural in the role.
Sure.
So I think that he literally did just get better with practice, and it was a matter of,
getting a feel.
He had to do all the important stuff at the front end.
Yeah, getting a feel for the character and how they think and how they behave, and yeah, that's a part of playing any kind of character. And yeah, getting thrown in the deep end there. Yeah.
Ouch.
So I want to ask you guys, in this scene, how many of you thought that All Might was going to die?
When I was reading the manga, I did.
Yeah, I thought he was going to die. I had no doubt he was going to be All for One, but I didn't think he was going to survive the fight.
Like, die in his feet or something like that.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Exactly.
I thought there. Correction. I thought it was 70-30.
Okay.
I thought there was a chance he might survive, but
I was kind of in the same boat up until there's a monologue in there from All Might about how he accepts his failure with Deku, and that it's now his job to teach him.
Yeah.
No, that's the point where it turns. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, as soon as
When
he says that,
like,
it's like, okay.
that's why I can't die now.
See,
Not because he wants to beat All for One, but because he has to make up for his mistakes and be a good teacher to Deku.
It changed to me that at that point, All Might was dead.
Yeah.
But
Toshinori would live on.
Yeah.
Yes. For me, it was like he makes that speech as like, he's
that is
he's
actually
so
a potential death
fucking
flag speech
doomed
also.
Yeah, he makes that
potentially.
speech like, "Oh, he's so fucking doomed now." And when he raises his fist and uses the last embers to get the muscle form, he's like, "And this is where he dies, and he's not dead, thank God."
That's such a cool way to finish that fight, where he can't even maintain the full muscle form, so he puts all the strength into one fist. And All for One is like, haha, I got you now. I'll just use my elasticity quirk in order to project it back at you. And then he just transfers the muscle into the other fist. He's like, oh fuck, that was a feint, and just clocks him across the goddamn face, breaks his mask, and smashes him into the ground. And
well, it's better than that. I mean, it's completely and utterly, and it's been pointed out in the videos and reviews and everything around this. It's 100% a Deku move.
yeah.
He goes with the big hit, feints, goes to just punch him around to punch him around the face, which is the distraction shot, and at the same time transfers back into the other broken, ruined arm, and fucking annihilates him.
I do also love the lines like, "Ha! That had barely any force to it. Even after the trick, that had barely force to it all. I hadn't put my back into that one." What?
Yeah.
You see the muscles flare in his legs and his hips, all up into the shoulder.
And then he uses United States of Smash.
So good.
Yeah.
And it's basically like the last remnants of One for All explode out of him in that one final attack.
Well, he actually says
One of the
it.
things that's been pointed out elsewhere, and I think makes perfect sense, is this fight on the surface seems kind of boring. It's like, you have all these quirks, why are you just punching him? And I can't remember who it was, but someone made this point, and it made perfect sense, is that All for One is perfectly cognizant of the fact that the whole world is watching. It's part of his plan. And if he can beat All Might at his own game by punching him, because that's all All Might does, that it completely undermines everything that All Might stood for from that point on. Being clever won't win the fight. Won't win the war he's fighting. But beating him by punching him to death will.
So it's a very much a mixed result for both sides, because they saved Bakugo, they beat All for One, they arrested All for One, and he's in this maximum security prison now.
Yeah. Ultra maximum, super duper maximum security prison. Yeah.
They have like guns pointed at him constantly, and if he even thinks about triggering one of his quirks, then they'll shoot him to death, basically.
Yes.
Plus, he's in like this giant like combination life support slash full body shackle. It's like something you expect, like they put a Superman villain in.
Well, you know. Let's be real. All for One is kind of brokenly overpowered.
So they managed to do that, but the symbol of peace is now gone, and everyone watched it happen. So there's suddenly a bunch of doubts like, oh no, the top hero in the world who kind of maintained this sense of order just by being there is gone. So what do we do now? And a lot of villains start coming out of the woodwork as a result of that. It takes a little bit of time, but that's something that immediately everyone is cognizant of, and something that at UA they start taking actions about. And they also start taking the action of, one of our students was kidnapped, so we're just going to move everyone in so that they can't be open to being kidnapped as easily.
Right. Something else I want to point out, two important bits, is one, Endeavor is there watching the whole fight, realizes he can't actually get involved without getting dead, and realizing just how big of a gap there was between him and All Might, and this forces him into a moment of self-reflection he's never had to face before.
Yeah.
Which I think will pay off later on.
It does.
It does.
Okay.
It's something that happened actually very recently.
Okay. And two, the bit where right after All Might defeats All for One, and he points at the news camera and says, "Next time, now it's your turn." And everyone starts cheering except for Deku, who breaks down crying.
And
Bakugo, who looks at Deku and finally does the math.
Yeah.
Finally puts two and two together.
Deku and Bakugo are basically the only two people in the world who realize what's actually going on in that moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Gran Torino too, because he knows everything too.
And All Might's cop buddy, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Tsukuchi, yeah.
Yeah.
But he's boring, so.
But the important characters are Deku and Bakugo in them.
Yeah. And that kind of gets put on hold for a little bit, because then they're like, okay, so we live in a different world now, so it's time for you guys to just live at school now so that you guys don't get in any fucking trouble anymore and get kidnapped. We're going to, make sure that you guys are safe. Move into these dorms that Cementos made with this handy-dandy quirk of making just buildings appear. Blah! How did we furnish these so easily? We have money. So...
the bit where he and Eraser go around to the families and basically trying to convince them to let the kids stay, and B, to stay in the dorms. They're all really interesting scenes.
You get to see Mitsuki, Bakugo's mom,
who is awesome.
It's kind of one of those things where it's like you start to understand why Bakugo turned out the way he did. In the good and the bad ways.
Yes.
Also, his dad's a fucking hero.
So, because clearly what his parents have been doing haven't stopped him from being a jackass, but they've also kind of encouraged his more expletive-laced outbursts because they don't really seem to care whenever he talks back to them. But clearly she's been pushing him to do things, and that's why he can cook. And he goes to bed at 8 o'clock and brushes his teeth. So
yes.
That's the thing that people start to realize is just why does Bakugo keep going to bed at 8 p.m.?
Because his mom's like, no, you're going to bed at 8 p.m. Yeah, grumble all you want. You're still going to bed, kid.
We also see Jiro's parents, and her dad tries to give Aizawa and All Might a really hard time. It's like, why should I let my little daughter go? And her mom's just like, you already agreed that she could go. I'm trying to look like the really responsible parent here.
I'm trying to be cool. Stop undercutting me.
And Jiro's like, yeah, they said that it's fine. And I think that's really all you get outside of Inko, who makes the very strong point of, my little boy keeps on coming home with his arms broken. I don't want him to do this anymore. And Deku and All Might basically have to beg her to let him continue down this path.
God, I love it. I love Deku's mom in this scene so much. Yeah. I mean, she is one of my favorite sort of minor characters in the show, because minor's not really a good way to describe her. Side characters, I guess. I mean, she is... Yeah. She's made exactly one mistake as a parent, as far as I can see. And it's a minor one.
Yeah, well, and she didn't know how to address Deku's dreams being shattered.
Right. And it's a totally understandable mistake. And but otherwise, dear God, this woman she's amazing. She really is.
She's not even saying that Deku can't be a pro hero anymore. Right. She just says, I don't want him going to UA because it's being targeted by villains, and I don't think that it's good for him to be around you. And so Deku basically has to show her, this is why this is so important to me. This is why I want All Might to be my mentor. This is why this is so important. And Toshinori, who demonstrated earlier to Deku that he literally couldn't hold his muscle form for more than 3 seconds anymore. It's demonstrated in a comedic way. He muscles up while he's still in casts from his fight, throws 3 punches, and then goes down to his unmuscled form and spits out blood.
Yeah.
He realizes how important this is, and he muscles up just so that he can go into Dogiza. Gets down his hands and knees, presses his head to the floor, and he says, I beg you, please let me continue. Allow me to have the honor of continuing to teach your son. I will do him right. I will make sure that he does everything right. I have so much I can pass on to him. Please let me do this. And she's finally convinced from that.
Yeah. The other little bit, he mentions that he will sacrifice himself to make sure Deku can go on to be. And that's her one stipulation is, you cannot sacrifice yourself in that way. You have to live.
Do this. Yeah, you need to be around in order to continue teaching him. Don't put him through that.
Don't do that to him. He's 15. Don't do that to him. Come on.
Well,
he's already lost one dad.
Well, sort of.
It's Deku's the best.
His other dad's never around.
Well, he works abroad mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But an important thing is All Might basically comes out and says he's the best of us. Like, he's better than me.
Yeah.
He is going to be better. He's already a better hero than I am, as just in terms of where he's coming from. And he's only going to get better.
Yeah.
And so after something heavy like that, it's thank God that you get like just the bit where everyone in Class 1A is just dicking around, going to each other's dorms to see who's the best decorated.
Yeah. Who's the best decorated rooms? That's so good. It's such a good steam blower. It's beautiful.
And the one that wins is Sato because he gave the girls cake.
Hey, I'd have voted for him for that. Dude, you could bake in your room and you know how to make cake. You're my best friend ever.
Yeah, he's like, my power is revolved around me eating sugar. Of course, I can cook.
So I do love that. It's like he's like, I've learned how to bake so that I can practice some different
breaking the bank every time. Do
you know how much just eating a handful of raw sugar sucks?
And so they go around everyone's rooms. There's so many wonderful little jokes there. Like Deku's just a complete All Might fanboy, so he's just got all these posters and action figures. And they're like, "Oh, you're such a fanboy." He's so embarrassed all of a sudden. Ida's got 100 spare pairs of glasses in case they Tokoyami never stopped being 12 because he's got all of his action figures and anime DVDs and his fucking swords, and they're like, "Oh, I used to have one like this when I was in middle school." And he's like, "Shut up!" He didn't want to let them into his denizen of darkness, so he was like standing in front of the door, and they had to push him out of the way.
He is such. I love Tokoyami.
So something exposed him as not being one of the cooler people in the class, but just being the biggest dork there. All of a sudden, all the notes about his Banquet of Darkness make sense.
He is such a wannabe goth.
Nobody wants to go into Mineta's room because he's such a creep.
They're all like, "Yeah, no, we're not going to your room, Mineta.
No, we're not going in there. Just keep moving."
Nobody goes into Bakugo, and nobody goes to Bakugo's room because he's already gone to bed.
Yes.
Kirishima's got a bunch of workout equipment. I don't even think that they get. I know that Jiro has music equipment, but I remember almost nothing about like all the rest of the girls.
Okay, Yayorozu's is like palatial. Yayorozu's is like palatially.
Oh yeah, she didn't realize how little room there was going to be, so she just moved her king size bed in and had room for nothing else.
Yeah, he's got a bed with awnings around it. Yeah.
She's like, I didn't realize how small my room was going to be. And all the others were like, "What do you mean small?"
Because she lives because her family's super rich.
Todoroki somehow managed to get his room to be a Japanese style room.
Yes.
To tell me about floor.
How did you do that in 2 hours? Hard work.
Well, I think he also says that like I made special requests.
Yeah, it's like I asked him to put a tatami floor, put tatami floors in. So but wait, you could do that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yes. Didn't you check boxes 1 through 66 or something like that? He also like put in like the sliding door and everything.
I forget what Uraraka's room's like.
Oh gosh.
I know Hagakure's is super girly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just you got all the girls.
Uraraka's is just like
Uraraka's is like normal.
Yeah, she's got like the most normal room. That's right. It's like this is a 15-year-old kid's room.
Ojiro's room is just like even more normal, and then Shoji's got like nothing in his. It's just a bed.
It's not even a bed. It's a fucking futon that he's got folded up in the corner.
Yeah.
Very minimalist.
Yeah. Koda's got a bunch of animal stuff.
Yeah, of course he does.
He's got like bunnies and stuff.
I remember the girls all going, "Oh my god, this room is so adorable," and he's like,
And Kaminari is like, "Check out my awesome room. Look at all my fucking games and shit." And they're like, "Okay, whatever. You're a fucking dork." So, that's about it.
Yeah.
So they move in, and they're really like, "Okay, yeah, we gotta keep on going. So we've got to get you guys your provisional hero licenses, because if you guys are going to live in this world and people are going to attack you, we need you to be able to actually legally take control of yourselves, because the school has gotten in trouble multiple times by this point. With Bakugo getting kidnapped and the kids being attacked, criticism falling on the school. Aizawa had to make, and Nezu had to appear in front of the press and Aizawa hates the press.
Aizawa shaved.
Shave.
Yeah. He's wearing a ponytail. Look what you made him do.
He shaved it. He's like wearing a suit and tie.
That poor boy, he just wants to go into his sleeping bag. So, they go to take the provisional license exam, and Class 1B is also taking it, as well as a bunch of other hero universities, including basically UA's main rival school, Shiketsu.
Yep.
And there's a few important people from Shiketsu High that we meet. There's the hair guy, who is basically the best student. I forget his name, actually. There's Camille, who is seemingly a kind of valley girl, who's just a little bit creepy. And then there's Yoarashi. And Yoarashi comes off as very comedic at first because he shows up as like, I'm so excited to be here! I get to match myself up with you! Yes! And he bows so deeply that he smashes his head into the ground. And then he sees Todoroki, and he's just like, gives him the stink eye. And everyone's like, okay, well, all right. He seems friendly enough. So they start taking the test. And the first test is basically laser tag with tennis balls.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everyone wears these 3 targets on themselves. If all 3 of your targets get hit, then you're eliminated, and you pass by taking out 2 other people by the end of the test. And if you aren't one of the first 100 people to pass, then you are eliminated there.
Yeah, and you have to take the provisional exam next year.
Yeah.
Camille creeps on Deku because it turns out she's actually Toga in disguise using her quirk, which he actually sees through pretty quickly.
Didn't mention Toga's able to shapeshift into people whose blood she ingests.
Right.
This is where we actually find this out.
Yes.
Right. So she's in disguise as Camille, and then she disguises herself as Uraraka because, of course, she got Uraraka's blood during the fight earlier.
And
Deku figures out she's not Uraraka.
It's like, wait a minute. You're not... I know Uraraka's been practicing shit like to avoid that stumble and fall. There's no way that... You're not her.
So, they expose that.
Uraraka never, ever exposes herself without a fucking plan. Not anymore.
Right.
So
she didn't have a plan.
So she's exposed pretty quickly, and she just kind of creeps on him while, running around as Camille, but naked.
Yes. Yeah.
And then leaves. It's just like, okay, I did what I wanted to.
The other members of the class start showing up, and she's like, "Ah, right, time to go. I can't. No more one-on-one time with Deku. Oh well."
But I think she did get his blood.
She did. She got a drop of his blood,
and that was her main goal on the whole thing.
Yep,
that was what she had actually been sent there by the League of Villains to accomplish.
She didn't get as much blood as she probably would have wanted. She literally got a drop.
We get a filler episode there focusing on Yaoyorozu,
which is really cool, actually.
It's not nearly as bad as the Suyu one.
No,
I've got my problems with it.
I have issues with it also, but overall, Yaoyorozu actually acts like Yaoyorozu.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good episode for strengthening her because she's basically up against someone who is basically a super genius and can predict what people are going to do.
Genius.
So in her own mind, a genius in her own mind.
My quirk is her name is like literally Psycho Intelli. Her name is Incredible Intelligence in Japanese, and her ability gives her like a 300 IQ or some shit like that. So her plan is, myself and my 5 classmates will progress through this test, and it requires us to eliminate 2 students each by eliminating these 4 students.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Also, how did she end up in a living room that they had set up for this? Like,
I don't know.
Because her power is only activated when she's drinking tea.
No, that's literally It's
it's so silly.
We must find the rich douchebag room that is sure to be in this testing facility. Oh, here it is.
But it
quite bougie enough. Someone go get me some curtains.
But it does put Yaoyorozu up against somebody who has a similar sort of skill set.
Right. And so she manages to beat her by acting in a way that she didn't anticipate, which was she came up with a different plan than what she was going to think of.
Oh, it was basically a case of you're focusing on her, but she's not taking into account what her allies can do other than in a tactical sense, and not actually relying on them.
So basically, Yaoyorozu makes this giant subwoofer for Jira to plug into and amplify her powers. And,
yeah, well, basically the big mistake the big mistake that the other girl makes is she's basically you have to be everyone for themselves,
right?
And you have to be willing to abandon your teammates, because I think her plan was, it's our entire group of 5 isn't going to advance. Only 2 of us are, and one of them is going to be me.
She really should have said that at some point.
I agree. But that's given the way she acts and her whole statement about you only worry about yourself. I think that's what they were implying. They should have said she should have had that said as an part of her internal monologue. I agree. Right.
And if things don't go well, then I'll just take out 2 of my classmates and progress.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but so Yaoyorozu, right? Yeah, she basically was like, okay, she basically has to sacrifice her own safety to set up her teammates.
So they're able to break out of this incredibly cold room that they're locked in, which is disabled Tsuyu because they're like, she's gone into hibernation. It's like, okay, whatever, fine.
It's the whole
it's the okay. Well, we have to neutralize Tsuyu because oh god, we have to neutralize Tsuyu. She's too flexible.
And Choji's like, I am also here. I will carry people.
I will make sure Tsuyu does not freeze to death. In a remarkably adorable way.
So they managed to break out of this locked room that they're in and take out everyone except Psycho Intelli, who locks the door back behind them. Well, she doesn't even lock the door. She's just like, I closed myself in this room with Yaoyorozu, and now I'll slowly approach her with the ball so that I can take her out. And then they burst back through the door and attack her, and she's like, why didn't you just assume that I had defeated her? Why did you come back through in order to save her? You only closed the door for like 5 seconds and didn't even reinforce it, so...
Also, we're not ditching our teammate, you fuck.
Yeah. That's the point they're trying to get across.
Yes.
Not very well done, but yeah.
So, I mean, yes, in terms of it gave Yaoyorozu something to do that was in character, and it also utilized her ability to work with her teammates. So not all that's good. Just a really ineffective
about this
villain, so...
It's about this point we actually started to work out that the way that this world is set up, the hero agencies, obviously you've got the big heroes and then they recruit sidekicks, but really the working heroes we've come up against are generally like loners that every now and again will team up with if someone else is in the area.
Right.
We started to realize just how fucking scary the future's going to be for villains if this class graduates.
Yeah, together.
Because good God, there's not a damn thing that's going to stand against them.
So that's that filler episode taken. And then there's a cool moment for Aoyama, who he's one of those ones that kind of has gradually become a strong supporting character over the course of the series. And so what happened at the beginning of this, the reason why Class 1A had been separated from each other, because they were planning on sticking together, except for Bakugo.
Bakugo's like, fuck y'all, I'm not sticking together, I'm gonna go off and smash people. Because I'm Bakugo.
Shima and Kaminari are like, hey, wait up! And he's like, no, stop! Go away!
I think Todoroki's the only one that actually manages to get away.
Yeah, Todoroki goes off on his own also, because he's like, yep, I can totally solo
I'm Todoroki. All right.
I'm Todoroki, and I really can't use my powers to full extent if I'm watching out for you guys.
So
he has to go fight the Power Rangers.
They're so stupid. We're a class of individuals, which is why we all have the same outfit. So it was another filler part, but whatever. He took out some goobers in order to pass the test. Who cares? So they were separated, though, by this guy with an earthquake ability. And they're splintered off from each other, and gradually they start to meet up with each other. And one of the groups that meets up is Ida and Aoyama. And Ida's basically watching his back and dragging him through the whole thing where they're trying to avoid being taken out. And it gets to a point where Aoyama realizes he's already lost 2 of his targets and he's probably not going to make it. So he does the only thing that he can think of, which is he does the thing that he is best at, which is standing out magnificently. And he just launches his naval laser like a beacon so that everyone focuses on him. And he says, while everyone is focused on me, you'll be able to use your super speed in order to take 2 of them out. You'll surely be able to pass. So you just do this. Let me at least do this for you. You've been looking after me this whole time, but I'm just going to hold you back from this point. And Ida, of course, doesn't want to do this because he looks out for all of his classmates. But fortunately, Aoyama's beacon is even more effective than he thought it was going to be, because everyone in Class 1A is able to follow it and meet up. And they're able
like, hey, he's there. That's where Aoyama is. Let's go meet up with Aoyama.
He's the only one that would do that.
Also, we recognize that laser beam.
Right. So they manage to find him, and they take out basically everyone who is attacking them, and they're like the last ones to pass. I think Aoyama is like the very last one or something like that in the final 100. And they make a point of saying, like, Aoyama, we were able to accomplish this because of you. And so he's like, it seems that I must go on twinkling then. Something very Aoyama,
Yeah. The only one the interesting one I thought was the one that the bit with Bakugo, Kaminari, and Kirishima.
Yeah.
With the fucking horror show dude that they end up fighting.
Oh, Captain Meat Manipulator.
Yeah.
That's another episode I want.
That was grim.
So
I'm a 40k fan, and that weirded me out.
He basically turns people into meatballs.
You don't watch enough Cronenberg movies.
Fortunately, when he's knocked out, his power just goes back to normal. So.
Yeah,
thank God.
Yeah, so that for the viewers, the guy they're fighting, he can turn people into meatballs. He basically
he can manipulate flesh, basically.
Yeah.
And like his own, so he can extend his arms and all that kind of shit. He can, like, if he touches someone, he can literally just manipulate them into whatever shape he wants.
Yeah.
And Bakugo makes an extremely angry meatball.
Yes.
It's so that Kaminari can have a standout moment, because to this point he just shocks everything and then gets stupid. So he now has a support device that Hatsume made, that lets him direct it to a particular target. So good for him.
Yeah.
So everyone in Class 1A passes the first stretch of the exam, and then they move on to Rescue, which is a bunch of assholes dressed up to look like old men and children complaining at the kids that they're doing a bad job.
Yes. There's one part that, I mean, like they introduced this, and like Deku like immediately dives in and like approaches it with with Deku's attitude. Oh my God, what's wrong? What's wrong? And the guy jumps up and says, "If you were a real hero, you'd know what's wrong. You can see my leg's broken. I've got a hit to the head. You should be checking me for concussion, and then working out how to get around, as well as figuring out how many people are all here." And he's like,
absolutely be reassuring me. You should not. The first things out of your mouth shouldn't be, "Oh, this looks really bad."
Yeah. Yeah, it should be, everything's going to be okay. And Deku, for his own part, is like, oh, that's why All Might says that.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. Oh, you're completely right. I'm so sorry. Let me start again.
Because I am here. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a great bit in this where the same sort of thing happens to Bakugo.
My leg is broken. I'm hurt. My arm. Oh, no. Walk away.
Yeah.
Walk it off.
Get the fuck out of here. We're busy. And they're like, you can't speak to me like that. Just go away, or I'll kill you myself.
And they're like, maybe he did actually assist that we're not high priority victims. Yeah, he's kind of an asshole, but he did properly assess the situation. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, minus 5 points.
Minus half points. He was an asshole. Let's not discount that. And so then complications arise, because they're like, okay, but what if there is a disaster scenario and a villain attacks? And so we get the best pro hero showing up, Gang Orca!
Yes.
Voted highly on heroes who look like they should be villains.
Yeah, he's basically just a fucking killer whale, but walking.
Yeah.
In a suit.
And he has a tie that looks like a killer whale's tongue.
Yep.
So he starts commanding his putty patrol to attack people while causing disasters. And so the students have to immediately, like, okay, some of us have to continue fighting the disaster scenario and rescuing people, but the other rest of us have to actually deal with this villain and take him down. So Todoroki and Yoarashi, who was making the stink eye at him before, start using their powers to attack him, and they keep getting in each other's way. Because both of them have these massive elemental type attacks, and so eventually Yoarashi's like, "What the hell is your problem?" And Todoroki's like, "What the hell is your problem?" And Yoarashi's like, "I'll tell you what my problem is. You're just like Endeavor, you asshole." And Todoroki's like, "What?" It's like, "Yeah, just like Endeavor refused to give me his autograph and looked at me mean." Okay, well, all right, but I'm not my dad. Fuck you.
It's like, yeah, my dad's an asshole. I'm not like that.
Yeah.
Really? Because you looked at me with the same eyes when we took the test together, and you refused to acknowledge me. He's like, "Oh, I did do that.
I was an asshole
was
there.
kind of an asshole when I got to you. I wasn't I? Oh, yeah. I think I need to do some self-reflection here."
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I that's something I really should think more on. But
you're still an asshole. So are you. Fuck you. Fuck you. So they keep on getting in each other's way and fighting, and meanwhile, Gang Orca's like, "Villain here, fucking your shit up. Okay, I'm just gonna use my sonar to paralyze you." So Deku basically is the one who comes in and again is like, "Todoroki, you're being an idiot." It's like, "Sorry, Deku. Yes, I'm being an idiot. Okay, let's work together to fight him." And
they actually impress Gang Orca. They pull off a move while they're both paralyzed that would actually, if he wasn't prepared for it, it would have fucked him up.
Yeah. They combine their wind with fire to make a wind tornado to capture him.
Yeah.
A fire tornado, actually.
Yes, fire tornado.
A wind tornado, unlike those other ones.
Shut up. They use fire. So he's trapped and can't be recalled. Fortunately, he carries bottles of water with him.
Which is smart, but yeah.
Yeah. So Deku looks like he's going to try and launch one last attack at him, but then they're like, yeah, the last rescue victims have been rescued, so yeah. There you go. We're going to announce final scores now. And the fight stops immediately. Yeah. And everyone's like, "Oh, Gang Orca, you were using weights, otherwise you would have totally mopped the floor with them." And Gang Orca's like, "Shut up. They were doing good." So...
As an aside, I want to mention the announcer for the test is amazing.
It's great because he's just like, "Yeah, it's fine. Something you're saying, Gavin! Oh my god!
God, just hurry up so I can go back to bed. I'm so tired."
Oh my god, I'm tired. Oh wow, this is really exciting! Anyway, we'll be announcing the results of the test now. Thank you.
The Japanese voice actor for him is amazing.
I haven't heard him. I've only heard
you should.
Yeah. I do like how, and again, they did it with Gang Orca, they did it with Bakugo during the sports festival. Anytime you get somebody commenting, who wasn't in the fight, anytime you get somebody adding false praise onto somebody saying, "Oh wow, that was an easy fight," they quite often are very quick to shut that shit down. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of respect going on for like the potential, especially these kids have. And there's never really a situation, especially with the heroes at the very least, where they're like, "Yeah, that was an easy fight. These kids are crap."
Imagine Gang Orca's like, "Yeah, get fucked, you little shits." Yeah.
It's like, there was no question I was going to win this fight. These are just kids.
This is why I didn't take anyone for the hero training.
Yeah, there's none of that arrogance. There's none of that arrogance or overconfidence that goes along with it.
At least not among the ones that are involved in the teaching.
Yes.
Right. There are plenty of adult heroes who are complete asshats.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Sea Mountain Lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's done. And then they announced the results of the test. And everyone in Class 1A passed, except Todoroki and Bakugo, their top two students.
Yeah.
Which makes Mineta get pretty arrogant for a little bit.
I understood them not passing Todoroki because the wind guy also doesn't pass because of that. Because of their not being able to work things together. I wasn't quite sure why they failed Bakugo.
Because he's an asshole.
Everyone.
Right, as simple as that, is it? Yeah.
Rescue situation. All right, fuckers, move.
Yeah, I suppose.
So
he I'm believing that he spent most of the time looking around, and then when he heard the villains are attacking, fuck rescue people, I want to fight some villains. Where are they?
Yeah. No, actually, I don't think he did. I think to his credit, and this is again the thing with Bakugo, he's smart enough to realize he was way across the other side of the platform, the arena. He was better off carrying on doing his job right now. It had taken him too long to get to that fight. I think he had the brains to figure that out. I think it was basically just down to, attitude.
At any rate,
he doesn't pass.
No.
So this immediately leads into a follow-up where, well, actually, prior to this, I should say that in the middle of the rescue exercises, that's where we get the filler episode of So All Might and some of the other teachers put on this performance, basically, and the important characters like Ida, Uraraka, Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki, I think it's the 5 of them.
Yep.
They have to go to this crime scene, and it looks like it's going to be a bank robbery with All Might as the villain, but then they see him, like, quote-unquote, dead. I think Suyu's there, too.
Suyu's definitely there.
Suyu's there. And so Suyu checks, and she like leans down over him, and she like ends up tickling him with her hair, and All Might giggles, and she's like, "I guess he's supposed to be dead." And so they're like, "All right, but who could have killed the bank robber?" And so they have to interrogate Mike and Midnight and Cementos, who are different bystanders basically in this scenario, and Deku eventually mostly solves the crime, which is like, I see. So Midnight was actually this guy's old lover, and so he killed himself until they solve everything, and Midnight cries over it. And then they look over and realize that All Might's not there anymore, and he's run out, and he's like, I faked my death to get away! I'm making my escape!
And the best part about it is him giggling when Sue tickled him was actually part of the performance. It was the hint that he wasn't dead that she didn't pick up on. She thought he was just acting.
That's the thing. Like Sue tickles him with her hair, and he laughs. He's like, "Well, that I can't."
Okay. So he's not really dead. He's just acting dead. Good. So it was actually a really clever thing from the filler episode, and also a really funny conclusion. So I'll give him credit for that. That was also largely used as setup to, is like, hey, this is the timeline for when the movie Two Heroes is taking place, because it takes place immediately after this one, which is actually set like months prior to this point. So,
right.
By the way, very enjoyable experience going to see the movie. There were kids in cosplay there, including a girl who did a really good Bakugo.
Nice.
So then everyone gets back and they're like, all right, we got our provisional hero licenses now. And then Bakugo like leaves this note for Deku to go and meet him outside that night. So he does. And Bakugo is like, I'm not an idiot. I know what's going on here. So he basically has completely figured out almost everything. He knows that Deku has one for all. He knows that when All Might was pointing to him, he was talking to him. He knows that, that's why All Might was getting weaker and why he no longer has the power, or rather he suspects that. And so they have a fight. It's a really good fight.
Yes, it is.
It's a really good fight. It's
by this point,
flashy,
Deku has
oh my god, wow, what they do with fucking blur frames. Yeah. Holy shit.
And by this point, Deku has almost total control of his quirk. Baku in particular, from this point on, continues to point out he still doesn't have full control of it, but he's made huge leaps and bounds. Not only does he have what he calls full cowling, but after they got back from rescuing Bakugo, they continued to train, and Deku developed this entirely new fighting style, shoot style. So he uses kicks instead of punches, and he's got these special like recoil absorbing shoes that Hatsume made so that he doesn't break his legs, and he can basically fight.
That's the whole thing. The doctors have basically told him if he keeps fucking up his arms, eventually he's going to have a point where they can heal him all the number of times he wants, but eventually the tendons in his arms are just going to give out.
Yeah,
and he's going to be paralyzed. So he's basically gone from a puncher to a pure kicker.
Mm-hmm. which he uses against Bakugo because Bakugo's gotten used to seeing him only kick. And so they're fighting and they're fighting and they're fighting. And eventually they come to the last exchange, and Deku is like, I may have been, using primarily kicks for my shoot style, but I never said I couldn't use my punches at all! And he punches Bakugo across the face. And then Bakugo wins. He manages to pull up this ridiculous counter and midair explosion-aided judo tosses him into the ground.
Yes, it's awesome.
Gorgeous. Holy shit.
And Bakugo just has him pinned there, and he's like, you've got one for all on your side, and you've gotten all these abilities, but you still lost to me. How could you lose to me? And then he just breaks because he just lets everything out, what he's been holding on to for basically since the series started, and that has been going on since then, because he's lets out all of his feelings about Deku and what he thinks of him, why he's been praised despite the fact that he's been failing and not meeting his own standards. And then when he got kidnapped, people were like, "Oh, you were so brave," and it was like, I didn't feel that wasn't the what happened. I just got myself captured and caused a bunch of trouble, and I made All Might lose his powers. And he just starts crying. Mm-hmm. And Deku's like, "Oh."
And this is when All Might shows up, and it's implied he'd been watching for a little while.
Yeah.
I remember correctly. The flashback.
He stopped Aizawa from going after them. Basically.
Yes.
Yeah. He knew that they had to settle things between them this way. And after everything, he's like, "Okay, so young Bakugo, listen, here's what really has been happening." And he does set Bakugo's mind a little bit at ease, because it's like, look, this was something that was going on before I ever even met you. I was going to always lose my powers, so that's not your fault. You don't need to feel any guilt over that. And he also tells him, it's like, this is how I passed on the mantle of One for All. And so now Bakugo is part of the secret, which brings things to kind of a conclusion. Like, Bakugo and Deku are definitely still rivals at this point, but Bakugo Bakugo still kind of hates him, but not outright.
Well, what it is, it's not hatred of Deku per se. It's just a projection of what Bakugo. It's like I said, at this moment in time, when Bakugo finally lets go and admits everything that's been weighing on him, and just puts it out there for all to see. This is why I say to people that think Bakugo's going to turn into the villain, the dark side fall, you haven't got a fucking clue what you're watching. Bakugo and Deku are the same fucking character. The only difference is one wants to be an awesome hero, one wants to be a hero and awesome. That's literally it. They are approaching it from a different angle, but they are at the core, they are exactly the same. They both worship All Might and want to be that top hero because of him.
There is one of the shots that you see in the fifth opening is All Might's shadow being cast in two directions, and one leads to Deku and one leads to Bakugo. Yep. And that's the theme of their fight, and the lesson that All Might imparts to them, because it's not just Baku has something to learn from this. So Deku has to learn it as well. Yeah, because he points out, each of them knows something and are perfectly embody something that the other has to work towards. Deku, basically the spirit of a hero, always doing the right thing and working towards justice and all that good stuff,
and wanting to save people.
But Bakugo, the top hero, has to always win, because if he doesn't, then all the stuff that they fight for is going to be lost. So Bakugo embodies that strength, and Deku embodies that spirit, and they each have to be able to impart it to the other.
Deku has a habit of, if no one else is in danger and it's just him, and there's no bigger picture, that he'll almost like that fight against Muscular. He was basically giving up.
Yeah, he was willing to let himself die if it meant that Koda could get away.
Yeah. And you can't be that. You can't do that. You're not a hero if you're just going to martyr yourself at the first villain that comes along. You have to fight to win. Like I said, they are two sides of the same coin, that if they learn off each other and get that middle, like I said earlier, though, if you got a city with those two and Todoroki running around as like the top 3 heroes,
and Tokiyami, if Tokiyami ever gets his shit together,
Tokiyami, you've got fucking Batman there as well. It's like, don't fucking bother even being a villain anywhere near this city. Just move, just leave. There's no point.
Briefly, something I want to say back towards the Deku Bakugo fight. In the immediate aftermath, when they're talking with All Might, and Bakugo hasn't quite finished having his breakdown, he turns to All Might and says, and actually admits to his own weakness, which is a massive breakthrough for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that's
this all happened because I was too weak to get out on my own. Yeah.
Yes. And that's something that really sold me on Bakugo as being fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like Bakugo just suddenly turns over a new leaf.
No.
It's been something.
No, this has been coming for a long time.
But he doesn't change completely after this either. It's part. It's part of the process.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's still definitely parts of him that resent Deku, but he's not outright bullying him anymore.
Right.
You see a brief glimpse of it in the final episode of the season when Deku asks, or I think it might be the second to last, but Deku asked him for advice. He's like, what did you think of my shoot style? And Bakugo's just like, it was really annoying when you started using punches in conjunction with your kicks. It's like, he basically told him, was like, good job.
Yeah, it was like he just offered up, like they've been put under house arrest basically, and they're because of their fight. All Might had to at least punish them somehow, and they're basically being ordered to clean constantly. Everyone's shit gets cleaned up, and just in the middle, like Bakugo's giving the angriest vacuuming in the world while
die, dirt, die.
Yeah, and he's like, the shoot style thing you use is stupid. You can see you winding up your kicks far too much. Oh, you're not sharp enough like you are with your punches. You need to work on that. And it's like, legitimately, it's the most intimidating, angriest advice anyone will ever get. But he's willing to at least he doesn't, like I said, I don't think he ever hated Deku. He said it a lot, but he also said he was going to kill people a lot, but never does.
Well, basically what happens at the end of all this is that Bakugo realizes what the hell has been going on in his own head. And now that he understands the situation that he's in and what's actually going on, he starts to let a little bit of not the anger, because he's still just a generally angry person, but he lets a lot of the hatred go. Yeah. Because there's something that he can actually work towards improving, and so he just does. And there are definitely still points where he gets annoyed with people in the manga when he really shouldn't, but he's shown basically constant improvement from this point. So this is actually a very important breakthrough for him, and I do hope that, we see a lot of the, it's like, Bakugo's a bully, stuff. It's like, he told a kid to kill himself. It's like, that was a bad thing. It was a really bad thing. He was also 14. Yeah. He has room to learn from his mistakes and get better, and some people who, make those mistakes when they're 14 never do, and some people do. So, there you go.
Yep.
And then the big three show up.
Yeah. Briefly.
So, we meet the top 3 students at UA, all of UA.
Year 3. These are like the year 3 about to graduate kind of level.
Nui, I forget his actual name, but Sun Eater and Mirio. And Mirio's quirk is that he can turn completely intangible. This completely intangible. He gives this very involved description of how his quirk works, which is like, I fall through the ground and keep falling because, I keep passing through everything. When I do this, I can't breathe because any oxygen that would be absorbed into my lungs just passes straight through them. I can't see because light just passes through my retinas and doesn't actually do anything. So it's actually a very difficult quirk to work around, but I've managed to become the top student at this school by just completely working towards it, gaining a lot of experience and figuring out what I can do with it. For example, he can teleport with his quirk.
Yeah.
He's like, apparently matter can't occupy 2 bits of matter can't occupy the same space at once, so I just pop out somewhere else.
Boink!
He basically just drops him to the floor, repositions his body like a torpedo, and the ground will just spit him back out.
And also, he's naked the whole time because his clothing.
Yeah, he does have clothing that's eventually made out of his hair, I think. Like his actual costume. Like, it's woven from his hair.
Does he flagellate himself also?
No. No, he does not. It's not made entirely out of his hair. It's got enough fiber. It's got enough fibers of his hair in it so that it doesn't fall off when he permeates. Right. By the way, Sun Eater is Tamaki.
Yeah. So, and all of them are done incredibly well with their English voices. By the way, it's something that got me really excited for the next season because they're heavily involved in it.
Yep.
Because they only show up really for like an episode, and there's like, oh wow, Mirio and Tamaki and them and even Nui, who was not very good in the manga, is like, okay, we've got a really strong grasp with their personalities, and they've got great voices, so good stuff.
And one's Pip Boy, so you know.
Yes, he's terrifying, muscular Pit Boy. Like, that dude is jacked.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, and he takes on the entirety of Class 1A.
Well, minus Todoroki and Bakugo.
Yes.
Yeah.
They go to like explain why they're going to do their next set of training with pro heroes, basically, and they're like, well, how is this different from what we were doing before? And he's like, it would be easier if I show you. How about all you guys fight me? And they're like, Mirio, this is us. Like, yeah, that'll be great, fight me. And he beats every single one of them by punching them in the gut.
Yes.
Eventually, all of them are like standing in front of him. They're like clutching their ribs. Like, so what did you guys learn?
Well, the thing he notices is that Deku actually figures out where he's coming from.
Yeah.
Right.
And reacts.
Because he's teleporting around behind people. And Deku goes, okay, he just appeared as showing up right behind me right now. And my fist went through his face.
Yeah. So, he did take out all of the long-range fighters basically immediately.
Yeah.
Like Jiro, Yaoyorozu, Kaminari, Mineta, Sero, everyone who uses some form of long-range attack, gone. So it was down to the close-range fighters, and when you also take Bakugo and Todoroki out of that situation, really the only like strong analytical thinker in that group is Deku.
Yep.
So. Yeah. So, and that's the season there. It's like, they're like, okay, also, there's a creepy guy in a mask, probably not going to be important.
Nope, not at all. I will say the other important thing, the other important bit from that little encounter with Mirio is basically them explaining, what you guys are going to pick up here is experience. Like, my quirk sucks on its own.
Right.
I've had to do so much work to be able to do what I just did.
Because they think there's like, oh, he's got a really powerful core. He's like, oh, here, when I step through a wall, I have to make all but one of my legs intangible, step through the wall, make the leg on the other side tangible, and then bring my first planting leg through. That takes a lot of concentration and a lot of control, and also I can't see or breathe when I'm doing it.
They're like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay, then.
So, yeah, this is going to be all about getting more actual experience in high-pressure situations. Good luck. This is not about forming connections or anything. No, this is about...
This is being on the job and actually, learning what you can do, how you can do it better, and, experiencing it in the real world.
Right. Because during their hero course training, they basically just like tagged along. They were basically doing ride-alongs with the heroes.
Yeah.
And this time it's like, you will have to actually help out with any hero work that's happening. You
have
to fight and protect people.
We actually saw a couple of, I don't think, other than when the Nomus attacked, that was the only time that during the internships that anyone actually fought anyone. Most of it was most of it was just shaking hands and going around and doing the day-to-day patrolling where there was no actual trouble.
Even there's even a scene that was added for filler, which is one of the more effective ones, where Jiro and her pro are come across a bank robbery, and the guy is like, "Okay, stay out here and do crowd control. Like you can't come in." So
he gets Jiro to use her ability to identify the number of people inside the bank,
and then to direct the citizens escaping.
Right.
Yeah.
Stay out here. You can't fight anyone.
The only one that actually gets into any combat is Sue.
Right, and that was a filler episode.
And that was filler by the TV.
Yeah, that's pretty much universally reviled.
And also, like, they attacked the ship she was on and stuff. So
yeah. So yeah,
I mean, even Uraraka comes out of it with like judo martial arts skills, and it was purely taught to her in the dojo.
Yeah.
Yep.
By Gunhead, there was no actual combat at all.
Yeah, but she got real good real fast.
She got real good.
Also, she has an awesome expression on her face whenever she employs martial arts.
Yes.
Yes.
Just goes into a trance. Oh. So, out of the 3 seasons that we've had in My Hero Academia, I would say that season 2 is my favorite. Season 3 has moments, but it just, for me, was not as strong overall.
Season 3 has my favorite moment we've covered so far. It has the battle between All Might and All for One.
True.
That, and it's not just that battle, but everything surrounding it. You know, from when Bakugo is kidnapped to the aftermath of the fight. That part right there is, I think, my favorite part of the series so far.
It's a really good stretch.
But I agree with you. I think season 2 overall is better.
I think season 2 is overall is a bit better, but season 3, like you said, has some just truly outstanding moments that, like, the All for One fight, the Deku Bakugo fight, like, and it's not even that they're fights; it's just that everything is resolved during them that makes it worthwhile.
That's the thing about My Hero Academia's fights is from a purely how much interesting combat stuff is happening during them. It's not the most exciting. They're not the most interesting tactical fights. But oh my god, the storytelling that goes on during this fight.
Yeah,
yes,
that's what I was going to say. A lot of the biggest moments do tend to be the fights, but it's not because of the actual combat itself. I mean, the only time I think that really came into play, and even so, the story was still important. It would be the All Might versus Nomu from season 1. That just came down to sheer spectacle and awesomeness at the end. But yeah, it's not so much the actual combat itself. It's the story that's being told. You know, everything through that, the whole Midoriya versus Todoroki fight, that was pure storytelling.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just happened to be in a fight.
It's probably my favorite fight in the whole series.
I mean, even I've just did it a disservice. Even the fight from season 1, it was All Might bringing himself out. You know, not out of retirement, but he knows his time is limited, but he's still willing to step in, even though he's not at his best. Going through, you know, again, you've got Bakugo versus Uraraka. Again, it's a huge step for Uraraka.
And it's the first inklings of showing that there's more to Bakugo than we think there is at first.
Exactly, yeah. And like every single fight gets that little. I mean, Ida's whole thing gets resolved during a fight.
Yep.
And it's one of those things where that conversation could have been had elsewhere, but if it wasn't during that fight with Stain, he wouldn't have worked through that problem.
Yeah, and it all comes back to the whole idea of fights as conversation.
Yep.
And yeah,
yes,
My Hero does great with that.
I think the issue with season 3 is that both seasons 1 and 2 have just like the school stuff going on.
Yes,
but season 1 has a much briefer amount of it, and season 2 it's just more engaging because you're just getting moments with with Uraraka, with Bakugo, Todoroki, with Tokoyami, and it's also very the actual tests themselves are just very different and based in, and there's a lot of spectacle to them. And then, of course, you just get some freaking fighting going on. Whereas in season 3, it's a lot of it is chaotic, and it goes on for quite a while, and there's not a whole lot going on, except for there's like you get some moments where some characters get to stand out, but there's no real character being developed up until the end with Todoroki and Yoarashi. Which, honestly, like, for all the things that Yoarashi could have hated Todoroki, it's kind of a lame one.
I think part of it is season 3's more disjointed. It's a lot of, and then this happened.
Yeah. I mean, there is, to its credit, there is the thing where it's like, okay, Bakugo's kidnapped at the beginning, he fails the provisional license exam, and then he has his confrontation with Deku at the end. So there is that running all throughout it. Season 3 is definitely, like I said, the season of Bakugo in terms of that development. But I do agree that overall it does seem like, okay, they're doing this, now we're doing this, and now we're doing this.
Yeah.
Season 4, I think, is going to feel much more unified because it's going to pretty much all come down to what happens to one character. Both the important plot arcs will focus on that one person. So, still very good though.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I normally for our normal episodes we sort of go into our final thoughts breakdown each by person, but
I think we've basically covered that already. To be honest.
Yeah. Also, this is not a normal episode for us.
Yeah. Also, I think we all can agree it's good.
Yeah. Oh no, we all adore the show.
There's no question of that. Yeah. The reason we're still doing this after we've covered one series of it and are still coming back to do the others is because we really like it.
Yep. But yeah, Nick and I both read the manga. Although I think I'm like a chapter or two behind at this point. I think. Well, Nick does it for his podcast with Chris.
I have to stay up to date on it.
I imagine you would probably anyways.
Yes, I would. It's a lot of the manga that I read it feels very habitual at this point, I will admit. So it is nice. One of the things I do appreciate about the anime is that I can just do it purely for entertainment.
Yep.
I don't have to worry about just staying up to date just for the sake of talking about it.
Yep.
I would imagine as well.
It allows me to just be a fan of it. So
yeah. I would imagine it's also obviously because you understand, you know exactly what's coming. But seeing how they've translated that to the screen and how they've adapted that, I'm one of those. I'm very much the same. I don't really care about spoilers when I go to see a movie, for example, because it's more about seeing how it's been done rather than what's been done.
Yeah, no, it's definitely that tends to be the source of most of my frustration with the series is knowing like what's happening and like I don't agree with the way that they did that, but a lot of the time they have handled the material very well in terms of adapting it for the anime.
So yeah, I think we're gonna wrap things up here because we have gone extremely long. Not surprising we covered 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I'm also dying of hunger.
I figured, Eric.
Oddly enough, although we didn't get to 3 a.m. for you guys, we did for me.
So thank you all for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We're going to have you back on at some point, Nick, for something or other. We'll figure it out.
This was a blast, so.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us, Nick.
I was going to say, next time we pick a short series, we might grab you in and you can do the whole thing with us.
So yeah, also, guys, if you haven't in the past, go check out Weekly Manga Recap. It's a show he does with Chris Rollo-Tilarios. It's fantastic. They cover all sorts of manga. And it's a lot of fun, and I really do enjoy it. I enjoy listening to the show when you guys do it.
Thank you, dude.
Thank you for joining us, Nick. I really do appreciate it.
No problem, man. I will definitely try to make it again sometime.
Excellent.
I've been wanting to do this for a while. So.
Yep. We wanted to do this back for Madoka Magica, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And I just didn't work out the time to do it.
So yeah, we'll figure something out for another one in the future.
I would not be adverse to rewatching Madoka Magica.
I would have to rewatch Madoka Magica, and I don't know if I can put myself through that again.
Oh, that's nothing, dude.
No, that's
at least we're not doing Saikano.
No.
You'll enjoy that one, Nick. You should watch that one. It's fun.
It's very lighthearted and fun. You'll enjoy it.
It's the one where Eric came up with the term "angle grinder of misery."
It just doesn't stop.
It's really good, but oh my god, it hurts.
I never want to see it again.
No, it's the best show. It's the best series I've watched that I never want to watch again.
Yeah.
Never. Anyways, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back. Eric, Gav, and I will be back for Slayer's Next, probably in a week or two.
Yeah, probably. We're
near the end of Slayer's Next, so
yeah.
Thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.